Questions like, why are we here? What happens when you die? Where did we come from? And is there a God?
The U.S. government has been shown to have had a long-term interest in Scientology.
This is a practical question here.
I know this is an illusion, or dream, or call it the way you want to call, you know?
We are a bigger threat to the people who are secretly trying to control this planet than any other group on this planet.
But the problem with an atheist is he believes that his belief is based on fact.
Oh, it's wireless. Yeah, you got wireless one.
He's impressive. He's a powerful guy.
I can't make this shit up.
The leaders of this are not just after our church, they're after the whole of this planet.
He was put here to work out his own salvation. And we feel in Scientology that we've made a very big stride in that direction.
Howdy everybody, and welcome to the Indie Scientology podcast. I'm your host, Andy Nolch, the Space Cowboy. And isn't it lovely to be here listening to the good old Strauss? This is a podcast that has everything to do with the interesting world of Scientology. Guess that odd religion you might have heard about. If you don't know what Scientology is, then I'll tell you. It's a cool religion that has interesting out there information, deep philosophical information about what happens to you when you die, information about who you actually are. And most interesting, and what most Scientologists spend most of their time doing, is the mind exercises, the spiritual exercises, because yes, you can pump those biceps, but you can also pump your mind. It was created by American sci-fi author L. Ron Hubbard in the 1950s. Now today's show is a guest interview with Max Hauri. Get excited, he was on a few years ago, and I was wondering how you liked the last show with Lafayette Hubbard. That was pretty interesting, wasn't it? That was a nice long interview. Today's podcast as well is a nice long interview. But when I say Lafayette Hubbard, I mean that. He thinks he's a reincarnation of LRH. So you've got to listen to that interview and you be the judge. Ooh! It's now time for us to go down that rabbit hole into the interesting world of Scientology, where up is down and down is up, where left is right and right is left, where what you thought was impossible is possible. Welcome to the show on this 3rd of July, 2019. Hello, welcome. Now, to start off the show, we have an announcement. I have an announcement to make, but let me just find it. I'm just on my computer at the moment, so let me just find what the announcement is. Sorry. I want to make an announcement for people to be wary of OSA operations. Because OSA is an intelligence agency, so they do intelligence things, intelligence activities like the FBI, the CIA, the secret police, because there's secret police as well. Because the CIA already is like a secret police, but there actually is a secret police of the normal police. So there's just so many different intelligence agencies. But anyway, there's so many different agencies that will do these types of things, which is like secret warfare, basically. That's what intelligence agencies are. They're secret warfare agencies. They do secret stuff, you know. Anyway, so OSA is one of them, and they're in charge of like the whole Scientology area. So I want to let people know that OSA do operations. Like they do get a guy to be an independent Scientologist and to audit people, and then have other agents come in and support that person and build him up and try and get people into doing squirrel practices and stuff, and try and get that person to fight with that other indie, and then, you know, it's like an operation, you know, it's an op, you know. So I want to let people know. That OSA do operations. It's not like they don't do operations. You know, obviously they do the online troll comments and that sort of stuff. Like Eduardo. And you know who you are, Eduardo. They do that, but they also do ops. And at the moment, there's a successful one going at the moment. One that they're running and that they're doing a good job at. So I just want to let people know that there's a successful OSA operation going on at the moment, and you've got to be clever and be wary and not get tricked into doing squirrel practices. Okay? So I just want to let you know that. That's up to you. I mean, I personally think that if you get tricked by an OSA op, it's because you're not wearing your conspiracy hat. Because a lot of people like to fall into the category of, yeah, conspiracies exist, but they're not as many as you think, and you shouldn't be paranoid all the time, and that sort of stuff. And then they just get conned by an OSA op or some other conspiracy. They don't realize that you've got to always be aware, and you've got to always have your conspiracy hat on. Otherwise, you can get conned. And there's people who aren't into conspiracies and go, "Oh, you're just exaggerating," that sort of stuff. They're always the ones that get conned by conspiracies. Anyway, we have got here on the show an independent Scientology success story, and this is from a student that attended Max Hauri's recent training camp. And when I say recent, it was in like April. So this relates to today's interview, because I asked Max about this training camp, and it says, Tanya, I attended the OE6 training camp held in Russia in April 2019. It was a long way for this South African to travel, but I confronted it and arrived. I was very happy to see that we were quite a big group. Instantly, we were all friends, and all of us knew we had the objective of finishing our course. Sorry, I had an inappropriate thought come into my mind. Like, I noticed this when I went to it. I'll just say it because it's funny, but I noticed this when I went to, because I tried a little bit of what's that thing called? Avatar. And when I get around spiritual people, my 2D starts like kicking in. Like I start getting horny basically, because the women are more attractive. Like spiritual women are more attractive. You know what I mean? Like they're not degraded wogs basically. And I just noticed like it was one or two women I saw where I was just like, hello, you know. And I remember one was like fairly old. Like I wouldn't be in a relationship with her or anything. I mean, because it's just pretty inappropriate. But anyway, like it was just like there's a big age difference. But it was like hello, you know, because I was picking up. And what I reckon I'm picking up on the Satan or the spiritualness, and it turns me on. Like that's what I'm attracted to. You know, I'm attracted to OTs. You know, anyway, so she was in this success story. She's going on about a training camp, and I was just like, oh, this will probably be like Avatar. We'll be sitting there like, oh, hello, who's this? And my 2D will start kicking in. I'll get overstimulated, you know, hanging out with those Russian girls, you know. I was twinned with Alexandros, a young man, and also it's just really cool being in those sorts of environments, and not so much the Avatar, but because Scientology is cooler. But yeah, I'm not saying you can't get good wins from Avatar and stuff. And one day I do want to do all their high level stuff. I find it really interesting. Apparently, Harry Palmer was in comm with UFOs or something. Like he had a UFO land in his backyard or some shit. Sounds pretty cool. I want to interview him one day, especially I want to ask him about that. Because he used to be a Scientologist before he went off and started Avatar. But so it's sort of cool being around those sort of people. But when it's around the sires, it's like really cool because then you can go into conspiracy land, and it's cool because it's spiritual and conspiracy. Whereas I've been around some right wingers, some alt right wingers, like Alex Jonesy type, and it's just like it doesn't have the spiritual element. It's just like it's good, talking about 9/11 and getting microchipped and stuff, but it doesn't quite. But Scientology seems to just really go into the conspiracies and really down the rabbit hole. And that's why it's so cool because you're just like, oh, I can talk to this person, they can understand me, and not think I'm crazy talking about these things. Anyway, I was twinned with Alexandros, a young man from Grenchen. I was so impressed by him and truly believed that it was being twinned with him that resulted in our success in completing our course together. He was a great twin. The course was wonderful. We learned all the tools we need to increase our Div 6 line. Books, and more books was a lesson. We need to get books into the hands of our public. This way they are getting the information straight from source. The study schedule was tough but completely fun and manageable. We had discussions among us daily with our Russian interpreter Oleg, so we could all understand each other. This course was really fun and practical too. We did some lecture drills with the group, each one having a turn to lecture. This was truly very fun. I would definitely recommend these camps and this OE6 course, especially if you are looking to expand your space. A huge thank you to my own organisation, Ron Zorg South Africa, for making it possible for me to attend this course, and to Max and Erica, and of course our wonderful course supervisor Henrietta for making this camp and course possible. It was for me truly a life-changing event. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Let's get this Div 6 show going on the road and thriving. Cool! Yeah, that was from Tanga, South Africa. Cool. It's now time for post of the week. I want to go to one of these training camps. I'll make a video and stuff. All right. This post of the week, it was posted by Catman on YouTube, and YouTube names are funny. It was posted on my video, which is from ages ago because it was KR1, and I don't even do KRs anymore. I've started doing briefings now, but this is when I was doing KRs, and I did like 50 of them or so really early. And I said, what really happened to the Church of Scientology? And I think I just went on for a long amount of time. And so this Catman wrote a comment, and I liked it. So it's this. I've only watched 15 minutes so far, but this is the best, most honest talk about Scientology I've ever heard anywhere. When you have the facts, when you know what it is that Hubbard was up against, then you hear someone say, he once said, if you want to make money, start a religion. It is thrown up for the flippant comment that it is. Hubbard realized that this world is screwed up, not just because governments screw it up and keep it that way, but because those who are being screwed up support that screwed government. Those who are being screwed up support that government against anyone who tries to break them out of their grip. Most importantly, he knew that without money or the protection offered under religious status, he was fighting a losing battle. Well done for being brave to tell it like it is. All right, awesome. I don't know if that was comment of the week or just more a comment of Andy. Andy just wanted to read it out to brag or whatever because it was a good comment. But anyway, you know. Yeah, Hubbard was up against a lot. Got a fair bit of corruption here on Earth. I think the trick is to just enjoy the battle. I think life is here on Earth. I think life is learning how to enjoy fighting evil. Learning how to enjoy the game of life, and the game of life seems to be like this good versus evil thing. So it's learning how to enjoy that, because it's, you know, if you walk up to someone who's fighting in a war, like imagine you walk up to someone in a trench and say, hey, you're supposed to be enjoying yourself, and that's the whole game. You got to go here and try and shoot the bad guys, but you also got to try and enjoy doing that instead of just getting tired. Like, this is, you're not just doing this for 1 month. You're assigned to this war for 1 month. You're assigned to it your whole life. So you just got to learn how to enjoy fighting. And I think I'm moving more and more into that area where I'm enjoying the battle, and that's the game of it. That's the whole fun of it, you know. It's just like, yeah, let's play it. So I remember when I wasn't doing anything about the things that I saw that were wrong in the world, and that was when I was in like grief. I just felt terrible every day. So that's why I totally agree with Hubbard when he says something is better than nothing. That's just totally true. The worst thing to do is nothing. And so even though, yes, you can have some stress and things come up and maybe you'll get sued or something like that, as long as you're doing something, you know, it's better than nothing. And you just got to learn to enjoy the fight. Stop resisting and stop fighting it. Just enjoy fighting, you know. We've got a Scientology joke. Scientology, the only church that doesn't believe in science, but does believe in science fiction. I don't know who wrote that. Someone sent me it. But it's a good point. I mean, I don't believe in science because I know that mainstream science is all dumbed down and faulty and hasn't been allowed to progress. And it's kind of like you look at a 1978 computer and you say, do you believe in that 1978 computer? And I go, no, it's a piece of crap. Like, that's not really a computer. A computer is this MacBook I've got right in front of me. Because there's all this advanced tech and shit that's been kept secret from us. You know, they're working in these cool underground bases with all this advanced tech and UFOs and possibly teleportation machines and, you know, and then we just get this crappy bullshit science, and it's just like, you know, fuck that. I don't believe in science. Science is just bullshit. It's propaganda. Like look at the global warming science. It's somebody trying to make money, and it's a lot of rubbish. But I do believe in science in general, like as in like Scientology and like science, like learning and improving. But it's just that mainstream science is corrupted. You know, earth science is corrupted. Earth science isn't even science. It's like some political thing and money-making thing. Anyway, the awakening is just going through its tits. I just have to say, it's going, whoa, it's really here, it's really happening. Get excited. I mean, like, people are, I've noticed how the alt-right are moving into some of the UFO stuff now. Like, it's gotten to that level where I guess people are moving on from the whole socialist takeover and a new world order. It's like everyone gets that. It's like, yeah, we get that this dodgy shit goes on and they're trying to set up a police state and 9/11 was staged and all that sort of stuff. And now people are moving on to actually find out about the Mars bases and that UFOs are visiting us and stuff. And it's like we're actually making contact, you know? And it's like conspiracy theorists will like no longer be a minority group, and it'll just be normal. Like we're at that brink right now where it's becoming normal. Like things are really, really changing, and everyone's finding out about vaccines and stuff. And it's full blown here. It's full blown happening. The awakening. Planet Earth is going to the next level, and we're winning the side of good. I don't think enough people are getting into Scientology, though, but maybe that's coming next. But but yeah, it's really good news, you know. Like, obviously there's some bad news and stuff, but it's just like, wow. I mean, if you look at all these New World Order and globalist programs, they're just failing. Like, we're all supposed to be microchipped by now. We're all supposed to not have cash. We're all supposed to just be way more controlled. You know, we are controlled too much, but it's just like they're just chronically failing. Anyway, it's now time for today's guest interview with Max Hauri. We discuss his OE6 course, the Org Executive course, like Div 6 promotion and stuff. And then we touch on a lot of different things. Yeah, and it's a nice long one. And I was happy after speaking to him this second time, because I spoke to him 2 years ago. I feel like I've asked him all the questions I need to ask him. And it was interesting because I asked him, you know, about chemtrails or whatever, and it was interesting hearing his answer, because it was like, to me, it was like, oh, okay, so that means that in the Ronsorg tech, there's no talk about chemtrails. Like I could tell from the answer he gave me, there's no talk about chemtrails. Like, it was like little things like that were like, because, you know, otherwise I'll go to do the OT levels at Ronsorg and I'll be like, you know, is there information about chemtrails? But now I know it's like, no, they don't talk about chemtrails in Ronsorg or whatever. Like, there's so many, and there's heaps of other little questions I asked him that like were little answers to things that I got that were like, oh, good, you know. Anyway, you got to hear it for yourself. Let's dig into this, chuck on a pot of big tea, and let's hear some talk about the world's most interesting and controversial religion, Scientology.
After all, we haven't been invited, and curiosity often leads to trouble. Goodbye, Dinah. Goodbye.
Today's guest interview is with Max Hauri, the Auditor CS and Commanding Officer of Ronsorg Grenchen over in Switzerland. And are you the commanding officer of Ronsorg in general?
No, I'm the chairman of the Ronsorg committee, but that is just a committee and I'm the chairman there. But the commanding officer, I'm just from the Ronsorg Grenchen.
So does Ronsorg have their own, like, president or COB?
I'm not a COB, not at all. But we have an organization which is called the Ronsorg Committee, and in that every Ronsorg is part of it, and we just have a loose connection with each other. That's it. There is not a commanding line on that structure. We cannot say, well, you have to do so and so and so and so. There is just the agreement to work on the basis of the technology of L. Ron Hubbard. We are not even defining standard tech. We are just saying, look, you are applying L. Ron Hubbard as it is by the book or bulletins or tapes, and that's good enough.
So you don't have like a pyramid sort of structure?
No, it's flat. It's really a network.
So, but if you are the chairman of the Ronsorg committee, it kind of is, it's not like you're the president, but it's your equivalent, it's Ronsorg equivalent of a president almost.
Well, it is just the chairman. You know, we have this organization, and someone is the person who is sitting, or who is the president of that, or the chairman, and that's it. But the Ronsorg or the structure doesn't have the power to interfere into a Ronsorg or give them orders or anything like that. We are not even allowed to demand statistics or something.
Okay, so by chairman, there is someone who's like the head of the chairman or anything?
No, that's me then actually. But actually I'm how do you say, they elect me on a regular meetings we have.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry, yeah, just to clear up the word chairman, it's a person chosen to preside over a meeting.
Exactly.
It's kind of like the president of a meeting.
Yes.
But yeah, so you kind of are like, if you kind of are the highest ranking Ronsorg member.
Sorry, I didn't get that really.
You kind of are the highest ranking Ronsorg member.
I don't get the word casting or.
You kind of are the highest Ronsorg member.
Kind of, yes, we can say so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Just want to get that clear. Well, that's good. That's good. What have you been up to these days? Because I know you had a big Div 6 event, and I wanted to speak to you before the event, but I don't know, it just didn't happen. But how'd that event go?
Well, we have been in Moscow recently in April for this meeting. I mean, for this training, it's not a meeting. And we had 16 people on that project, and they were actually studying the OEC 6 there. This is what you want to know.
Yeah, was it a training camp?
It was a training camp. We had a lot of other things going on. Erika was in the meantime, she was training class 12 auditors from Russia, from Germany, and from Ukraine. So we have people there doing all kind of services, starting from children course up to class 12, okay, including the OEC.
Yeah, and so that course is something that you helped design, or yeah?
Well, basically, it's just the original OEC 6, the Organization Executive course from 1974, and that is basically the check sheet, more or less. Well, I have deleted some issues which were not from LRH, and I have also put certain series or things out of it. For example, the PR series I didn't include, and also the OCA test I excluded because this is a separate check sheet. But the rest is all in it as it is given in the OEC 6.
So if you had to take out some things that weren't LRH, were they issued under like board tech bulletins or something like that? Like, what made you think they weren't LRH?
Yeah, well, that is written under it. You always see in these old issues, well, that was written by Fred Hare or by this and that guy, and there's a committee which wrote it, and so, and quite often those issues are not that interesting. Some issues are interesting, even though they are not by LRH, and those issues we keep, but sometimes it is just something which was appropriate for the time in the 60s, and yeah, today you don't need that anymore.
So would that sort of relate to maybe letters, because it's just letters aren't the same as what they used to, or do you keep stuff in about letters and you just substitute email for letter?
Can you repeat? Okay. Repeat or two?
So like there's some stuff in the admin tech talking about letters, but we don't really send letters anymore. The world's changed. We have emails.
So, no. I take the issues as they are. You take them and we don't change them a iota. We just take them as they are in the OEC 6, in the book, and we use them. And sometimes there are issues we really don't need anymore because it is really, for example, when they're talking about telex, right now I'm working on the OEC 0, and they're talking about telex, how to deal with a telex. People today don't know what is a telex. In the meantime, we had fax, and then we had emails, and we have other kinds of possibilities to transfer data, but telex, I think nobody knows anymore, or there are sometimes issues about how to make Mimeo graphs or Mimeo issues, how to print them. And so, I mean, today we have printers and we don't have this old system how they printed the bulletins then. So we don't need that, you know. And if it's only about that, I don't put that on the check sheet.
Okay, that makes sense. But the only thing is that if Hubbard writes something about a telex, maybe it's kind of good for someone to read, because then they can think, oh, email or phone call or something like that, like that's equivalent.
Yeah, I mean, you can keep those issues, you know. This is not a problem. Quite often I have to keep policy letters in which is written about telex, and so that's fine. I leave that. I don't change that at all. I mean, if there are some words which are not used today, then we just make a footnote and explain shortly what that was in those years, you know. But maybe make a hint to how it is handled today.
Yeah. Because it must be a bit tricky, because that's what I noticed with the admin tech, that it's like it changes so much. Like the way technology and modern stuff changes, that it's just like that might be the thing that would cause Scientology problems in the future if people aren't willing to. I mean, you have to change the admin tech. I mean, I think there's no way you can not change it.
Well, look, admin tech, this is a word which comprises a lot. When we talk about these things, how to transmit, let me say, a message from A to B, well, today it's much easier, much different, you know. We work with emails, we don't have baskets anymore. Of course, we still have in our org baskets, but the most traffic we have is going via email. And of course, we have that not in the stuff from L. Ron Hubbard. It's just not existing then. But when we talk about admin, then we have a lot to do, you know, how to deal with people, how to educate them, what are lines, what is safety, you know, how are certain courses run. There's many things about the org board or other things, you know, which have not changed at all and will not change. These are the basics, you know. When you talk about ethics or conditions, that does not change. Even so, we have absolutely different possibilities today with computer and so, but the conditions are the conditions. The org board is the org board, and how you deal with people and what an exec wants on his line and he doesn't want on his line, you know. That doesn't change at all. Of course, admin. Today we have computer. You make bookkeeping with computer. It's much easier, you know. And then you have to deal with taxes and so on. And this is things what you have to adjust to your country and to your local situation. But as I said, many other things have not changed and will not change. Similar like the tech we have. There are some basics.
And if someone is a church member and they're listening to this, the church has had to change heaps of their admin stuff and put in computers. And I mean, you can't run a big organization without changing the admin. You can't go off 60s admin, you know?
Well, I think with this original technique or technology we have from Ron, you can have large organizations. You don't have to change this admin. And yes, the church changed the admin, and I was not fully in it what all got changed, but a lot of things got changed, which I have to say, this was not L. Ron Hubbard, you know. And why should we teach that? I mean, when you have to adjust something for your local area, fine, then you do it. But that does not mean we have to invent new policies or alter the policy letters from L. Ron Hubbard. This is what I'm really strongly against. Let me talk about Div 6. You know, we had, when I started with that about 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I had Henrietta with me. I still have her. She was the supervisor in Russia, and we had to find out what what was the intention of Ron, you know? We had to find out. I mean, I was in a big confusion in all those years. I was listening to this advice and that advice. I was listening to so many things. But finally, I really was confused. What is really Div 6? And so we said, okay, let's take the OEC 6 and work from A to Z through it and study it all. And then she asked me, well, what should I take? Should I take the old green volume or the new green volume, you know, the one from 1991? And I said, okay, take both. And then she studied both, and she said, with the new one, with the 91 issue, she got in such a confusion. And when you started the old one, you had a clear line. And finally, I really could condense what was distribution and how Ron really did that. This is, that was what was interesting, you know, because we got so many new things into Div 6, which had not been. You know, after all, I learned that Ron most probably left 1972. There are many things, hints, and things what happened, which clearly indicate that. And now let me see. For example, Ron says in a tape that what you want is actually a person who can read, who is able to read, because when you disseminate someone, you will need to have that person in the course room. You know, you want to train him. So he must be able to read.
Yeah.
And if he can't read, it doesn't matter if it's another language or if he's just not educated at all. You can't use him. You're not a school to teach him the language or to teach him how to write and read. So that's a basic fact. And the other factor is, of course, he needs to be interested in Scientology. And in his case, if he just comes because someone else recommends it or because he gets forced because of his wife or his
parents,
husband or parents or whatever, you know, we are in big trouble. So this is why he recommends the book. He says, before you do anything else, you know, before anything else, the book comes first.
Yeah.
Make him read a book.
Yeah.
And if he cannot read it, and if he's not happy with it, leave him alone, you know?
Yeah.
That's what he says. So we need to distribute books.
Yeah.
And here we are exactly on the point where I say L. Ron Hubbard was not around or whatever happened, you know. I remember I've been on staff. I became a staff member in the Church of Scientology in 1979. And in this time, the price for a book got risen 10% each month. You know, every month you paid 10% more for the same book. So that means somewhere, I don't remember exactly in what year, but I think it was in 82 or so, a Fundamental of Thoughts the price was 120 Swiss francs. I mean, today the dollar and the Swiss franc is exactly one. So that means compared to today's currencies, it is $120, one Fundamental of Thoughts, you know. And in those years, a book in this size is a price of 20 francs. So how comes that the books are so incredibly expensive, you know? It doesn't make sense at all. And it's certainly not in the intention of L. Ron Hubbard to have the prices that high for books, because they are a key for an organization to exist, because you need to distribute these books, and you don't distribute books in dozens. You distribute them in thousands. And if you don't do that in thousands, you will not have an org. He clearly says that. So that was one of the most stable data we got out of OEC 0 when we studied that. And that also confirmed then that body routing actually is not from Ron, you know. When you look at the materials, the first time body routing from the street to the org, I think that was from 74 or 75. Before, it was never the case. You never went to the street and were body routing. And I have seen that when you do body routing with people, you get all kind of people. They are not interested. They are not educated. They speak another language.
Yeah, you're right, because you're sort of, the person's sort of like forcing people into the org, and you can just get anyone coming in.
Yes. You know, when you do so, the only thing what you can do is actually give them an OCA test and then sell him a book and tell him, read that, you know. And then when he thinks, yes, that's good, and he comes again, then you can make a Scientologist out of him. But when you take someone from the street and you put him on the comm course, then you violate that policy where LRH says, book comes first. And he says, don't do that. Don't get a person to the PE course when the person has not read a book or when he doesn't come because of a book.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that when I first got involved, because I read a book and then I met some other people who hadn't really read Dianetics or something, and they were just there because a friend said for them to be there, and they'd just come in and tried some course or something. And it was like they didn't quite get the point of Scientology, or it was like they weren't LRH fans, or like, I don't know, it's kind of weird, but I could see how it was like, no, you need to just like read Fundamentals of Thought or read a book and then actually cognite that this is good information and that you like LRH, and then you'll be able to get along much better, you know? Because they go in, they haven't read a book or whatever, they go in, and then you sort of see them, I guess, complaining, and maybe it's because they're getting pushed around like a pinball, saying, "Oh, can you do this course or do that?" And they're like, they're not even like, they're not at need of change. It's not like they're there, hey, this is good and I want to improve. It's kind of weird.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you have a Div 6 full of people, and when you make an evaluation later, you find out most of the people just disappeared somewhere on the route to the Div 4, you know. Because they are not really interested in Scientology. So we have to approach the correct people in the first place. And this is a big task.
Yeah, and I've seen people say that people haven't even walked into a Scientology center, but they've read a Dianetics book and they go, and I saw one guy read it, one guy do a review of it, and he goes, so I read Dianetics, I get Scientology now, I understand what Scientology is, even though he hasn't walked into a church, he hasn't done the OT levels or anything, but he gets the actual idea of Scientology just by reading Dianetics. Like, he gets it. Oh, so it's about self-improvement. You're going in to get audited, and you're trying to achieve this higher state called clear, and it's no longer a confusion. But when they walk in without really understanding the whole point of Scientology, then they're just sort of like, why am I doing this comm course, or like, why am I doing the PE course or something like that? And they just get pushed around and then they just leave.
Yes, exactly. And you know, that also gives another vital information or datum, which is not everyone has to do Scientology. You know, I was always very much convinced everyone can be made to a Scientologist. You just have to find the correct ring, you have to find the correct button, or you have to give him a correct course or something, and you can make from every person a Scientologist, which is just not true. We have to find those who want to be Scientologists and not those who doesn't want.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think with those first things where they're reading a book or they're doing an OCA, you have to get them going, oh, this stuff is good. If they do an OCA, they get the results back and they say that's a shit test, then that's going to be hard for them to ever get into Scientology or whatever. Like, it's a bad, it's just like, oh no. So it's just like, whatever systems someone's using, you got to get them to read a book that's good, that they can understand and that they'll like, or you get them to do an OCA test that'll give them a good result. So I heard the OCA's been squirreled, the one they're using in the church. So whatever, you have to get to like the original good OCA, get them to do that test, And I like the Dianetics DVD that the church made. I think that that's good because it sort of gives a good idea. But I think that's real important. It's like, I guess, when people see a trailer for a movie, like a Hollywood movie, if the trailer's shit, then no one's going to go and watch the movie. So you got to get the trailer good. And that's some of these first things that people do in Scientology.
Exactly. That's completely correct, you know. And this is, of course, still a lot of work we have to do in the free zone because we didn't do a lot on that part, you know. We have been not really working on that, you know, that it needs to be done. The other thing what we have done by now is we are in the possession, or not, no, I cannot say we are in the possession of the copyrights, but we know the church is not in the possession of the copyrights and we can print the book. And we do that now. I mean, this is what we do at the Ronzo Krenken. I started with that to print the book. I mean, first I put them online on our homepage with my name, and now we are printing them, you know, with my name in it, with the name of the Ronzo Krenken in it. And that's a major step, you know. That's important because when we need to distribute, then we need books. And we need to have them online, so we need to have them in hard to give it to the people, because people still like to have a book in their hands and read it. It is not all digital. So that's an important step we did in the last 2 years now. But for example, Evolution of a Science, I have now just recently printed 500 copies and we are distributing them.
Yeah. And I know I was mentioning earlier about how the admin tech needs to be changed or something. What I mean is you need to read it, understand it, and then adapt it to modern technology.
Absolutely.
That's what I mean. Yeah, like you can't just be this insane, literal KSW person where you read it and then you follow it like a nutcase, and then like it'll just cause problems. It was written in like the 60s. So that's what I mean. And when it comes to probably some of the only changing of tech I would agree to in modern times is maybe some special handling to handle like poisons in the environment or vaccine damaged kids, something that comes in like before the Purif, like an undercut to Scientology. That's maybe the only thing I would approve of, just because I think that there's been more weapons put out by SPs to degrade people more that wasn't around in the 60s. So the only thing I would approve of is some sort of undercut thing, right? And also some sort of editing of some of the Div 6 books, like the Dianetics book and like the Problems of Work book and the, what's it called, New Slant on Life, some sort of editing to those books to make them sort of shorter, sweeter, and without so many hard words. That's the only form of squirreling I would approve of. But of course you would say, you'd put on it that this has been modified for Div 6 purposes or whatever, and you'd put the date and everything so people know that you've changed it. And then they could still get the original books from the church later on, but just one or two special books are just specifically tailored so that modern people can understand them. That's the only thing I would, approve of.
I don't think that's necessary. I think, when in the 70s, in the beginning 80s, I was actually speaking with many people, and there were many Scientologists who said, well, they have never read the Dianetics book because it was too complicated for them. And already then people complained that Ron is too complicated and too difficult and should be changed. I mean, and that was only 30 years after 1950, they were complaining. And they still do today. And what I had, this is personal cognition from me, L. Ron Hubbard is not political correct. He is just straight. And sometimes it is something you have to accept how it is. But after all, you have to duplicate his ideas, because his ideas are sometimes just new for Homo sapiens. and they are absolutely not familiar with that, not on the track, not everywhere. So they first have to really duplicate that. And this is the big problem. Ron, for example, in the OEC 6, he talks about, don't give a lecture, you stand in front of a group and you just talk and talk and talk and talk about Scientology and so. No, he says, don't do that. Take a book, take a chapter and begin with the first sentence and read that to the public. And make sure they understand it. Let them give examples. Clear the words with them when they don't understand it, and then go to the next sentence and so on. And we do that now. We call it philosophy meeting, as you have seen probably. And people love it, They come in and they start to see, hey, right now we have mainly Scientologists there. But they recognize there's so many things they just read through, but they never duplicated, much less understood. And this is exactly how it goes. When you take the people and you give them this kind of lecture, even new people, we had new people here, they really start to understand what's written there, but it needs some time to discuss it with them, to give them example, or to give them example both ways, and then they start to understand and cognize. So that's the most important.
How often are you doing these lectures?
We do it now once a week.
And so, what do you call them?
Philosophy meeting.
Okay. And so, and it's sort of targeted at new Scientologists.
Yes. Right now it is targeted actually to Scientologists because we really have a hard time to build up a Div 6, which is in many places the case. It is not easy to get the people. This is something we really have to learn. I mean, we wasted actually 40 years now on that subject, and we have to re-establish these lines or these comm lines or the knowledge of it. And right now we just get the people here, Scientologists, and then they have the possibility to bring their friends with them. Right now they are a little bit in the training run how to do that, We keep that simple. They just sit all on a table and then they take a book. Right now they are working with the factors because it's only Scientologists. And after a while, when a new person comes, they take a chapter from the Fundamental of Thoughts or Problems of Work and beginning of the chapter and go through. And that works good. I mean, we had recently a few people and they loved it, One person brought his mother. She was in the beginning quite antagonistic. I hear that. But at the end, she said, that was great. She really understands something.
So what's the best form of advertising for Div 6? For expansion? Let's say you're starting out, you want to expand. What's the best form? I know, because the internet's popular these days, and there's, I imagine, you've got, Google ads or something. Like, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm working with Google Ads. I was working with Facebook. I was working with Twitter. We had not really success with that. We are still try and error on that. This is not resolved in our org, honestly speaking. But what we are doing right now, we are just distributing books to people, to self-employed people. We get them from the Yellow Pages and we send them a book. We send them an Evolution of a Science just as a present. Just to get it out, to get a flow running. I know in Moscow, they have a bit a better system because they have an online platform where they can promote for lectures and so, which is relatively cheap. And then people come in for the lecture and they have regularly about 10, 20 people for a lecture every weekend. And then they are selling them a book. They get them for a test and so.
No, but how are they reaching people?
This is an online platform, Moscow, you have to understand, this is about a 16 million city. This is huge. This is large. Grenchen, where we are living, is 16,000. This is nothing compared to Moscow. And they have a platform there where people can go to find what they can do on the weekend, That can be from a party or from some course, some lectures and so. And then they make promo there and they pay about $100 a month, or I don't know if a month or a week. And they get about 10, 20 people every weekend.
Wow.
For election.
So they've found a successful action.
Yes, they found a line how to advertise. And we don't have that in Switzerland yet. I couldn't find yet any such form. So I invented something else. I said, look, I must do something, otherwise I'm on a stuck flow. And the funny thing is, you send this book out and you don't get antagonism. I mean, we have now distributed about 200-300 books, while there have been 5 books coming back, which was a bit an antagonistic flow. A few are coming back with the note, I don't want that, thank you very much. But in average, less than 2% of the books are coming back. So they are somewhere, those people take these books and put them somewhere on a table, in a shelf, maybe they throw it away, but at least they are in some hands. And what I observed, people coming to us, suddenly you have someone saying, hey, they come to our homepage, they do the test, and then you give an evaluation, and then you get in communication with them, and then you find out he or she was already since a year or 2 reading books we have online, and says, well, look, I have now read that and that book, and I thought I should now give it a try. But they were really several, 1, 2, 3 years investigating, in quotes, what we are doing and what it is, and then they start. But so long they just have been silent and were just reading. And this is why I have put the books online so they can read it, Even so they are anonymous, of course they are. But when they want to get auditing, suddenly they say, now I come. And they come.
Yeah, there's a bit of people out there who are LRH's fans, but they maybe they got scared away by the church or something, but they don't they just read his books and they like it. Because I noticed when I was selling some books for the church when I was in the market, and there are some people who like LRH and that, but they sort of stay away from the church or whatever, and but then when they're ready they want to go and do it, so they can do it with independent Scientology. I noticed when I was putting out some Facebook ads that OSA was like stopping that from happening, and like stopping the ad from reaching anything. And then they must have realized that I realized what was going on, and then they started giving me like reach, but it was to like troll accounts. And I looked at them and they were just all these Africans. And I was just like, what the hell? Like all these people in Zimbabwe. And it was like they were trying to trick me. So they were like, oh, look, your ad's reaching somewhere. But then I actually look in further and I find out the ad's not really reaching people who even speak English. And I didn't even think they could have been no accounts. They could have been troll ones. So I think that these are the sorts of games I think we have to look out for, where OSA electronically can do shifty things where they make sure a certain online form of advertising doesn't work.
Well, we had a funny incident right now. We are making some promo, so on YouTube, we made a film, and the first film we made, we have seen, and then it was pretty good statistics. I mean, a lot of impressions. We're talking about 8,000 impressions or something, but only a few clicks. And then we were evaluating that, what happened. And then we found out this went all to children films, for children from 3 to 6 age old or something. They got all this promo, and then Leon, who is doing now this, he found out, and then of course he stopped that. So there's so many parameters in Google Ads, or this is YouTube, then there, you have to take care for that this advertising goes to the correct people. This is not so simple. I don't know what the OSA is doing. I really would like to know what they are doing. But I think sometimes we overestimate the power of them, and we do not really understand how Google AdWords or all this advertising works really, and how we have to deal with that. I think this is this is really a big, big deficit we have in the free zone, and we have to work.
Yeah, but also you got to be careful about OSA because they can do, you know, things and stuff. They're out to sort of stop us. And
that's very important.
yeah, I know because on Facebook I targeted certain countries and stuff, and like I made it tailor-made, you know, and yet they just give me all these likes from people in Africa, and it was just funny. But and now I've got a thing where I think my posts I think on Facebook aren't reaching anywhere. So they put it's called shadow banning. It's like secret blocks that you put in to stuff someone up. So I think that they'll do that. But anyway, is it?
I mean, talking about Facebook and OSA, you know, but it's maybe not even OSA. But we made promo. I mean, I have a good friend in Munich, and he's working with Facebook and this kind of advertising, and he made a promo for Dynetics book. And we paid something for it, you know, to get it running and so. And he said he experienced something which is absolutely odd. Normally, when he says, here's the statistics, you know, and then it rises, you know, it goes up. And he experienced it goes, and then it collapses to zero. And he says, the point is you can mark this kind of promo as spam. And we have probably, maybe it is from the church, from OSA, but I think it's just too many people who are so fed up with Scientology that they just mark it as spam. And then the amount you pay to get a click becomes incredibly high. So it's almost impossible to use it as a promo tool anymore, Facebook, you know.
Yeah, you got to be wary of that sort of stuff. I mean, like if you're just going to send out heaps of promo, people will just push it into the junk mail, and then you'll never reach them. But if you put out one every now and then they're less likely to put it as spam, and then they might actually read what you're putting out. You know.
Yeah, but you know, this has happened to us. Don't ask me what exactly the customer did when he got the promo, but fact was that we couldn't use it as a promo tool because when we started, after a few days, the curve really showed down because most probably it was marked as spam.
Yeah. So the event went well?
Sorry?
So the training camp went well?
Oh, it was absolutely successful. We had people from Buenos Aires, we had people from Anchorage, we had people from South Africa. I mean, they traveled all around the world. Really long trips. They have been partially really 1.5 day traveling to come there. And they were absolutely enthusiastic about it. You know, they got something they have not expected. They didn't know it's existing at all. They really came here and they said, hey, well, you know, you should not forget they have somewhere, and the course rooms are sometimes not that tough. And then they come in a course room and they really started in the morning from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the evening, of course, with breaks. So it was about 12 hours studying. And or 11 hours, I think, they were just studying with correct supervision, with word clearing, with everything, you know. And they made so much gains, and they were really surprised how that can be run. I mean, I'm very thankful that I know still the times when we have been in church and been doing crash training, and so we had that all set up. So, but you really have a modern course room, and as you said before, you know, today we have tablets, we have computers, and those people many of them were actually studying from computer. They were not studying from a course pack. Some had a course pack printed, but we had some. They studied all from the computer. So this is, of course, much easier when you need a dictionary, click, and you have the word with the definition there. It's very, very simple. Yeah, so this kind of change of admin we need.
Yeah, especially that Dix.pro website where, you know, Dix, I think it's I think it's dix.pro, DICTS.pro, and you could just search any Scientology word in there and it comes up with a definition.
Well, you have to send me that link. What I have is slovari.pro or slovari something, and it's just English, and you have all the definitions there. It's a little bit, it's not so sophisticated program, but you have all the definitions instantly.
Well, that sounds like what I'm talking about. I'll just see the name of it. Yeah, it's called dix.pro, DICTS.pro. That's all.
No, I have Slovari.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, you just punch in the definition, so you punch in the word, and up comes the definitions, whether it's from the tech dictionary or the admin or the basic dictionary.
Yeah, you have to send me the link after that. I want to see that.
Yeah.
But there are many things. This is fantastic, you know. I mean, we have all the tapes. We have them in digital form, in MP3, in WAV or whatever, and you just click, and within 2 seconds you listen to Ron. This is fantastic. And when you need to go forwards or backwards, or you need to find something, it's much easier than we have had with the cassettes or even with the reel-to-reel tapes.
Yeah, it makes it so much faster. Like, if I think of the time I was studying in the church course rooms, a lot of the time was trying to find dictionaries and walking around and stuff, and this is just so much easier.
So much, we have, for example, we have the World Book Dictionary in digital, Of course, that's a bit complicated because it is just an OCA, a picture file. It's not really an OCR file. But when you need to find a really complicated definition, you can take a look there. You can find all definitions, or you can find derivations and all this stuff. This is fantastic.
Yeah, and I like being able to look up pictures of something. Like, if it's an item of clothing that you're looking up, it's hard to read what it looks like, but then if you type it in, you can see it on like images. You just do an image search, and you're like, oh, so that's what that looks like, and you can understand it better. So the training.
Also, when you need something to know about, some figures, some senator from 1958 or something, you find that on Wikipedia. It's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So when's the next training camp?
This will be in the autumn. It will be, I don't have the date ready. It's ready. I think it's 26th of October plus 2 weeks in Turkey. We go close to Antalya. This is a good place for us because, first of all, it's still kind of summer, especially for the Russians. We still can go to take a bath in the sea. And the Russians don't need a visa to go there, and we don't need a visa to go there, and the hotels are very cheap. So we have a good hotel, high quality, with good rooms, and we can have our training there. This is fantastic.
Well, that sounds pretty good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Where do people, if they want to do this training camp, where do you go? Who do you sign up with?
They can contact me. Or when they are from a Russian part, they go better to Vadim Zudev, who is actually the CEO from the camp. But here from the West, they probably go better to me.
So there is, okay, and so, yeah, so there is a guy that sort of is ahead of running the camp?
Yes, we have the Vadim Zudev. He is actually the commanding officer of the camp. He is actually also the commanding officer, or I'm not so sure if his brother is the commanding officer of the org. It's called Istochnik. It's an organization in Moscow. So they have a Ronzorg themselves, and Vadim is then the CEO in the training camp. Now we have it in Turkey, but sometimes we have it in Russia, but he is the CEO.
How do you spell it?
And then we have many auditors there. We have the class 12 training going. Erika, for example, is then the CS, and we are training the people and correcting the auditors, for all this stuff. And there are many other people coming for hard TRs, for example, but also studying on the academy. Some are coming for their OT levels. So we have a full classroom running. I mean, we always have people between 50 and 80 people in the course room.
Mm. Nice. And your centre, you're still auditing people at your centre and stuff, and delivering the left side of the bridge as well?
Everything, yes. We have a course room, we have AGC, and we are slowly expanding. We are not very high, not an affluence kind of thing expanding, but we are continuously expanding. We're always getting some new people, and they continue with the bridge, and this is actually, from that point of view, fantastic.
Well, your staff are getting paid decent money, is that right?
Yes, we earn money. I mean, we make all our living, and well, we don't have now real high, huge salaries or so, but we have a salary that we can afford a good flat, and we can afford a car, and we can go to holidays, and so, we can have a decent life.
Yeah. It's interesting how you said not all people can be a Scientologist, and how you used to think they could be, because I thought the same as well. I used to think, yeah, everyone can be a Scientologist and stuff, and then I think I found out, I found out that it seems like some people are just like they're almost too dumb or something, or it's like they almost can't be helped. Like, I kind of thought, I at the start, like, I like Scientology and I think it's awesome, but I do think that it isn't as amazing as at transforming people as I thought it was.
Well, Scientology is a fantastic level, and you can, I think, being dumb or too stupid, this is something which is not really the parameter where you measure if someone can be a Scientologist or not. It is really the parameter, can he read and does he want to do that? When he wants to do that, there's always a possibility to go on. And you can have huge changes in those people. I have seen that. I mean, people before and after, it's such a big difference.
Mm.
But the real question is, being interested in own case, the person who's, if he doesn't want, then you cannot make him a Scientologist. And when you go through the materials of L. Ron Hubbard, then you see, you have, for example, suppressive person. And one of the definition of a suppressive person is he doesn't want auditing, he doesn't to look at his case. Yeah. He's not interested in his case. So you cannot take him. And then we have the PTSs. And then we have many people who have just other fish to fry. And that's okay. We should accept that. We have sometimes really clever people, but when it comes about self-improvement or Scientology or so, they say, oh, no, that is nothing for me. Let it go. Let them go. Don't try to disseminate someone who doesn't want. There are plenty of people who want. We just have to find them. I don't know how much is the percentage of the people who want to do Scientology, but we right now don't know how to reach them correctly. This is the main problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I was speaking with people who made big campaigns and made really an inflow of Scientologists into the church. And they all worked actually with Dianetics books, and they distributed those books really in hundred-thousands. We're not talking about a few thousand. We are talking really in hundred-thousands, if not millions of books. And that gave really Scientologists. And I think, you have one Scientologist, you probably have to distribute 100 or 500 books to find one person. I don't know what is the statistic really, but it is not it's not a statistic that you sell 5 books and you have one Scientologist.
Mm. Yeah, I think that, and I guess with modern times, because there's been more things to degrade people, the more degraded a person gets, the less they can recognize that Scientology is good. You know what I mean? The more low-toned a person gets, the less likely they're going to read a book by LRH and go, oh, that was great. They're more likely to be like, that was shit, or that won't work, or, or something like that, because it's like something that appeals to uptone people, you know, and intelligent people and able people. So, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, and of course, what we have to understand, in the 60s, for example, or in the 70s, we hadn't internet. There was not even so much TV then, you know. People were really happy to have something to read, something clever, you know. And today, when you have internet and with the smartphones and everything, you have millions, if not billions, of options to see and read, you know, what there wasn't in those years.
Yeah, that's interesting. If you're thinking about body routing people off the street, I mean, that person off the street, are they going to read a book that's probably going to require them to use effort, or are they just going to go and play some cool computer game that's like hi-fi with a big screen and 3D or something? Like, I could see how young people could be like, stuff that, why would I do that? Like, this computer game is real cool. So it's there's all these reasons why it's harder to disseminate Scientology when compared to the 60s. There's all these reasons, but I still think we can get there and get more people into it, especially because it seems like a big mass awakening is happening at the moment, and people are starting to find out that things aren't quite what they thought they were, and that things were more corrupt than what they thought.
Yes, and we have many people here. I am absolutely convinced they knew Scientology from the past life. Because it's really funny. One person, for example, we have now back on lines with the full family. The family stopped doing Scientology when they had small children, you know, they had so many things to get money and to survive and everything, so they stopped doing Scientology, the parents. And then the girl, when she was probably 17 in school, they got a briefing how bad Scientology is, you know?
In the school?
In the school, yeah, this is socialism, you know. This is what's going on here. And she was listening to that. You know, the parents didn't say they are doing Scientology or were doing Scientology. And she went home and looked at Mama's face and said, "You have doing Scientology." And that brought back actually the family back to Scientology, and they all are doing Scientology now, you know? And how comes she knew that? I mean, of course, she as a being have chosen Scientologist parents and wanted to do Scientology, you know, and then suddenly she got some kind of an initial fire, you know, and then it started, you know, it just came to Scientology then.
Yeah, it's interesting. You can't tell young people not to do something and maybe not young people, just anyone in general. I mean, you tell them not to do something, then that makes them go, oh, why? Why shouldn't I do that? You know what I mean? And it totally makes them interested in that area. Because I remember in high school, we had something similar happen where somebody came, because you have these people every now and then in schools come for lectures, and you just, I don't know what it's for, but you just get these interesting people. Like one time we had a Native American guy, and I think it related to one of the English books we were reading or something in school. But you get these people come and talk and stuff, and, you know, if they say don't do something, it makes you go, oh, what is that? I want to, you know, I'm interested. You know what I mean? It just has the opposite effect. But that's, I guess that person talking at that school must have been talking about cults and stuff and saying, oh, Scientology is a cult and stuff like that.
Yeah, but the funny thing is the person recognized the parents have been Scientologists. That's the funny part.
I remember when I first got into Scientology, I was annoyed that I hadn't received any advertising from Scientology, because I came in my own way. Like I didn't get any outflow, and I was pissed off that I hadn't gotten any outflow and I hadn't gotten it earlier. You know what I mean? So there's people out there. That's what I think of every time I do any Div 6 promotion. I think there's people out there who want this tech, who wanted this tech 10 years ago. You know what I mean? And so. Yeah. So maybe you occasionally might get some angry person who who doesn't like the advertising, but there's a bunch of people who really like it.
They want it. This is really true. People want to be reached. I had a funny incident myself when I have been in the Ideal Org in Berlin. We went through there, and the DISTEC was leading us through the org and showing this and that, and I made some hints, that I was staff member and so on, and did that and so on and so on. So I didn't tell them that I'm the Max Hauri and I'm from the Free Zone and Ron's org. So, but after maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes, we were out of the org again, and I had an RC break because she was so not interested in me and didn't want to give me anything or ask me anything, not even my full name, not talking about the address, nothing.
Really?
She was so not interested in me that I was really actually kind of RC broken.
So you didn't get read. They didn't read you for anything.
Yeah, not even contacted me, I mean, I was there and talking with them, and I expected somehow, yes, and you said you have been on staff, so what are you doing today, and are you still Scientologist, or what are you doing, are you on staff, nothing, This is funny, but the most interesting thing was on my side, that I had an RC break because of that.
Yeah. It's a bit of reach and withdraw. It was sort of reach and withdraw, you know what I mean? You were reaching and she was withdrawing.
And this is, by the way, an interesting part. So many Scientologists are so afraid to reach out. I really have to say to my staff sometimes, hey, reach out, give a phone call, do something. They are always afraid that they could overreach someone. Even so, the telephone bill we have is so incredibly low, I know they don't call a lot. But people, and I hear that sometimes really, that people say, hey, why you never call me, or why don't you do anything? They really are waiting for a phone call or for a reach. This is interesting. This is a very interesting part.
It's like when I think about when I was involved with the Melbourne church, they could push people really far before the person was officially pissed off. So yes. You'll be surprised how, you shouldn't try and piss people off, but you'll be surprised at how you can reach pretty far before they get pissed off.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
So in the Berlin org, did you notice many public?
No. It is a huge org. It's really huge. I cannot really give you the correct amount of square meters, but I think the org is about 5,000 square meters or something like this on, I think, 6 stories or so plus basement. I don't know exactly, but large. This is huge. And the org board had about, if they and foundation org, they had about 60 staff members, maybe 65 staff members. But when we went through, of course, I think it was a Wednesday afternoon, we didn't see a lot of publics, if at all. I think we have seen mainly staff members.
Did you get to see how many people were in the course room?
No, we didn't see the course room. We saw almost everything else, but not the course room, I think. But it was really empty. Huge place. Actually, from the mist, very nicely done. Well, some too much significance and symbols I dislike, but it's an upstairs place after all, but empty.
Yeah.
In the middle of Berlin, in a good area, This is not, you have there shopping malls around with plenty of people, it is really in the middle of everything.
Well, yeah, that's good. That's good that they didn't move the Ideal Org to a bad location, which they did with a lot of other places. Like, in order to secure the large piece of land, they had to move them out of good locations.
Yeah. But that's really, from that point of view, absolutely fine. But empty, this is the big out point.
Yeah.
We have probably much more public than the Berlin org have. But when you collect our square meters, we have maybe not even 200 square meters, you know.
That's actually one of the questions I was going to ask you. How many OTs, do you know how many OTs there are in Ron's org or at your org?
In our org?
Yeah.
Well, I don't have the exact figures now, but we are talking about 150 to 200 OTs.
All right, cool. So that's not Ron's org in total, that's just your org?
That's our org.
Okay.
When you go, for example, to Frankfurt, you have probably another 50 OTs or so. When you go to Munich, you have probably another 30 to 50 OTs. When you go to Russia, we certainly have above 400 OTs. Then we have some OTs in Buenos Aires. We have many OTs in South Africa. In South Africa, well, this is also difficult for me to estimate, but we're talking there also about between probably 50 and 70 OTs.
Now,
some are in Australia.
Now, what about actual members of Ron's org?
Look, this is something this is something which came up recently when I was looking at the structure what Ron was establishing, you know. We don't have members as it used to be in the church. You know, when you came into the church, then you became a member and you became a, 6 months member, or you made a membership for a year or two or something, or a lifetime membership. We don't have that. We just have people coming to the Ron's org and are Scientologists. Are they calling them Scientologists or they don't call them Scientologists? We don't care. They're just coming to us and are part of our group. But we don't have memberships, you know, and it's maybe also good we don't have that, you know. Because recently I had a person, she's opening a school, you know, and sometimes she's coming to us and but she's not a member here. She's just coming sometimes to us, you know, that's it. And she is not member of an organization, you know.
Yeah. Well, what about, like, you know, roughly, do you have any idea in total how many thousands of people are involved with Ron's org? How many, like, roughly? Because, like, I think maybe with the church, it might be worldwide, like 50,000 or something. So what do you think about Ron's org?
Well, I think the 50,000 of the church is exaggerated largely, really largely. I don't think, if they have 5,000, probably, you know, I don't know, maybe it's 5,000, a bit less, but they do not have so many people as they like to show themselves. Here in Switzerland, probably, when you look at the active Scientologists, which are really Scientologists, not people just being somewhere in the CF, I think they have something between 500 and 700 people or something. When I take the statistics, but maybe this 500 to 700 is not correct. You know, this is not something which I can guarantee you. I have no possibility to count them, but I know the org in Bern, where I have been staff, they have, in the meantime, they have maybe a few staff members. They have maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 staff members, but not more. And the publics they have, they also no more, not many anymore. So maybe these 500 are too high. Scientologists have a little bit of tendency to exaggerate, you know. When we go to the free zone or to the Ron's org, let me say, we have something between 1,000 and 2,000 active people.
So what about completing the entire Ron's org bridge, like up to OT 30 or something? How many people have done that?
Probably 50 to 100.
All right. So what'd they get up to, OT what?
48.
All right. What country would you say has the most OTs? Russia?
Russia could be Russia. But South Africa has also many, and here in Switzerland and Germany we have also many. I mean, that would be a competition we would have to really count precisely, and then we should also put that into the amount of people living in that country. I mean, Switzerland is a country with 8.5 million. It's a small country, but when you take Russia, what is it, about 150, 170 million something? Germany, 80 million. South Africa, I don't know. So
yeah.
Put that written with that.
But it seems like Russia, it's pretty booming, and it's booming a fair bit in Taiwan, isn't it? Just Scientology in general.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have any plans for China or India?
Well, we have some people from Japan here, and we have, so to speak, now an FSM in Japan who is bringing, obviously, sometimes some people here.
Yeah.
And I hope after some days we will have someone who is going to open a Ronsorg.
All right, yeah, that'd be great. Japan seems like it should be more like, because it seems like it's similar to Taiwan, so it should be as popular in Japan as it is in Taiwan.
I think so, but let me tell you, the culture they have, we know that now from Japan, it is sometimes difficult because of not losing their face, and what they got in their childhood as a culture, makes it not so easy to handle that all. But with good TR0 and with grade 0, with TR0 and with grade 0, it helps a lot. It changed those people remarkably. They've become so much freer and open and talkative. It was really a big change we could see.
And also, I think that if you explain to them how Scientology can get them to be more successful, then they'll see how they can be a winner, and then they'll have that success from doing Scientology, and then they can show off and be like, I've got a perfect face. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes, absolutely. This is, by the way, also why I am pushing now very much this OEC Zero project, because this contains a lot of fantastic data everyone should know. This is really, it's somehow forgotten.
So it's probably stuff you could use for just any business, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's really basics about lines, about ethics, about this and that, It is so great stuff, but you just need to know, what is a policy and how are the policies really, that there must be policies and who needs to know the policy and many such things.
Yeah.
And this technology is not taught. This is what I see,
Yeah. The school system doesn't... The school system doesn't teach people proper admin technology, like business technology, and whatever they do tell them, you don't want to use whatever the mainstream is telling you to use because everyone else is using it, so it won't be as effective. Like if they all say use Google Ads, you don't want to go there and use Google Ads because you've got all this competition. Everyone else is going to be using Google Ads. You want to go and find an unusual way that other people aren't using. And that's why if someone's new to Scientology and they're listening to this, they can get information from Scientology that can get them to approach things from a different way that everyone else isn't using, and then you can get ahead.
Exactly. And we need to distribute this data, we need to teach those data. I was surprised I heard Erika just the other day saying she probably studied the CS series of 5 or 7 times by now, in all those years. And then I thought, that's interesting, You are auditing, you are CSing, and you're dealing and handling with people, and then you're reading or rereading the CS series and these materials. But there are not many people who studied the OEC Zero at least once, I do not know a lot of people, honestly speaking. I mean, I don't need two hands for that. I think when I know 3 people who did that, that's it. And they're not talking about that they studied that several times.
Yeah.
And it's mandatory, this stuff. You need to understand that when you apply it, and, you have an org or you have a company or anything, and you study it once, and then you are working again a year or so, and then you restudy that, and you see, hey, that's exactly what I need. I've not seen that in the first time, and I've not seen that, and I'm going to apply that now. This is what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And this is it.
I think the black PR made people want to move out of being involved with Div 6, and I think also just the fact that the tech is cool, people want to move into, being an auditor and that sort of stuff. But it does seem like that in Div 6 there's a brain drain.
Yes.
So do you think that LRH died in 1972 or 73?
Very difficult question. Extremely difficult to answer. My answer is not based on when I spoke with that person or with this person who have seen and talked and had conversation with L. Ron Hubbard. My observation is after a while, I just kept out of that because that brought me always in confusion. I came actually from the viewpoint, what is contradictory to what is before? I got so many issues. For example, in 78, new aerodynamics came. And it is a fact that new aerodynamics with natural clear and dynetics clear and past life clears produced about 10 or 20,000 clears, natural clears or past life or dynetics clears, and a huge amount of those are false declares.
Yeah.
They never reached dynetics clear at all, And then, so that was in 78, in June, July 78. And now in August 1980, David Mayo wrote the Keeping Scientology Working Series 21 to 25, Later they got cancelled because they are from David Mayo. But those issues were actually the remedy for these false declares. And now, that's an interesting viewpoint. Actually, David Mayo is correcting L. Ron Hubbard for, let me put it that way, for the crime done in 78 with all those natural clears or past life clears or whatever, This is a fantastic viewpoint. Mayo is correcting L. Ron Hubbard. So something is wrong. Probably, and I think very much so, New Aerodynamics was never written by L. Ron Hubbard, because when you take the issues, they are just put into more proper English maybe, and a little more smooth reading. But after all, it is just, when you take, for example, the bulletin Engram Runnings by Chain, that was written in 69, but was then, first it was an HCOB, then it got changed into a BTB, and then in 78, that very issue became an HCOB again, and got again revised, But suddenly what was before a BTB, what was not directly by L. Ron Hubbard, even though it was put together by staff of L. Ron Hubbard, was again an HCOB. So who the hell does that? Hubbard wouldn't copy-paste his own materials and make a bulletin out of that. And I think probably it was David Mayo, maybe it was somebody else, made that, changed it. As I told you before about the rising prices for books, or the rising for the services. In 76, there was an issue, an LRHED published that the prices for the services increased every month for 5%. It was handling or solution to inflation, it was called. And that rose the prices to about 8 or 8,500 Swiss francs for an intensive. I mean, the prices became incredibly high. And Ron never wrote, well, if you have reached that level, that's it, you know. It just went on and on and on, and nobody knew when to stop. So we have a lot of things what happen which doesn't make sense. Or for example, also in 76, the Rock Slam bulletins got revised or reissued, or new issues came out. And then half of the stuff ended up in the RPF because they have been rock slammers. I mean, how comes that half of the stuff are rock slammers? I mean, if you have a few, yes, fine, but not 50%. And there's so many things. So this is
hold on a second. When did someone change the definition of rock slam?
I wouldn't say it changed really. I mean, this is a subject I have not fully researched now, but fact is 76 rock slam was new defined, and there's some new issues about it. And exactly in that time, people were actually put in rows, or in, how you say it, in big amounts to the RPF.
Yeah, so it's like it kind of stuffed up with the ability for people to spot rock slam, and it made everyone get rock slammed.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So, but I came from that viewpoint, you know, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, you know, what is really contradictory. I have given up to ask people, when did L. Ron Hubbard die? You know, I asked for, well, I think it was Jim Logan. I asked him, have you been in communication with him? You know, he was the one who was for the materials, you know, this project or archiving project he did. And I asked him, have you been in contact with him? And he said, yes, I know he was alive. And I asked him, well, have you seen him, you know, face to face? I don't care if it is something like we are now here. Or he said, no. I asked him, have you had a handwritten paper from him? No. Have you had a phone call with him? No. And then, what's the proof? And he said, well, I felt, he said, when he was on the other side of the telex. Okay. And I had to say, funny, yes, that's nice, you know. And I hear such kind of stories again and again. And I had to say, well, that is not a fact for me.
Well, what does CBR say about that? When does he say he died?
This is something I do not understand. I really missed the opportunity to ask him. I really have no idea when CBR thinks he passed away. The funny thing is that from Alan Wright, I don't know, I have put that tape online on my YouTube channel. And Alan Wright gave a lecture about an evaluation when LRH passed away, and he said it was 82. Yeah. But I doubt if this is correct. And also I doubt the story with Captain Bill. I know from Ernie Martin, and Ernie Martin got obviously, I don't know exactly, 72, 73, he says, he got the order from LRH that when something goes really wrong and the command intention is no more going through to all, go out of the church and start a new organization with the name Free Zone in one word. This is what he told us personally when we have been there about 10 years ago in Los Angeles. He passed away, by the way. He's no more. So, but when I hear this story, you know, Ernie Martin telling me, and Ernie Martin and Captain Bill, they were together, especially there, let me say 1980, 82 and so. I wonder if what Alan Wright was saying, if that was applying to Ernie Martin.
What do you mean? So sure. What do you mean? What Alan Wright was saying applying to Ernie Martin? What do you mean?
That LRH said that only to Ernie Martin, that he should go out and make a free zone, and that what Alan Wright was telling on his lecture is not originally from Captain Bill.
Hold on a second. Can you explain that again?
Okay. Alan Wright is saying in the tape that
or in that lecture that was around, I don't remember, 2002 or 3 or 4, was a convention, and on this lecture he said that LRH said to him, when he not get every half a year a personal message from him, I mean really, a phone call or a talk face to face or a letter, if after 6 months there is no such communication, he should leave the church and start a new organization under the name Free Zone.
Now hold on, Steve. Alan Wright was saying, was it Alan Wright? Is that the right name?
Alan Wright, yes.
Alan Wright. Yeah.
Right, like correct, right, you know.
Yeah.
With W.
He was saying that LRH said this to Captain Bill or said this to him?
Well, Alan Wright is saying that LRH was saying that to Captain Bill.
Yeah, okay, yeah. All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then, obviously, and what Alan Wright is saying, but I never hear that from Captain Bill, not at all, not a single hint. I hear nothing from Captain Bill about that.
Now, hold on a second. Didn't Captain Bill say that in his debrief?
No. There is nothing in the debrief. I mean, it was not in the debrief, but in a lecture it's the lecture about famous people I have known. He gave that in Paris. I was personally present then. He said that he was together with Captain Bill on the reeling, I mean, on the Apollo, obviously, and that he, or that outside, and he pointed out to the stars, that there is something to handle and he needs to go there. But this body, and pointed out his body and said, is a symbol, and he doesn't know how to get rid of that, you know, without causing a turmoil and so, you know. And later Captain Bill said somehow he resolved that. But that leaves quite some free space to interpretation. But from what I hear, it sounds that has been probably in 71 or in 72, when they still have been on the boat, on the ship.
Hold on a second, though. I'm pretty sure I've heard Captain Bill say that LRH said, if you don't hear from me every 6 months, go and start up your own free zone, right? Structure independent of the church. And then Captain Bill says that he actually saw LRH at AOLA, and LRH didn't say hi and walked off quickly or something, and that that was the last that he saw of LRH.
Yes,
doesn't he say that in the debrief?
No, this is Alan Wright who is saying that. I never heard anything from Captain Bill about that. I have nothing from Captain Bill about that, and I'm so sorry that I didn't use the chance in those years. Actually, I was not aware in those years, and asked Captain Bill about that. Because it is only Alan Wright who said that. I mean, I know the materials of Captain Bill pretty much. There are many interviews, but he never, ever mentions anything like that. Never.
Okay, well, I've got to check that up, because maybe I just heard Alan Wright say it, and then I assumed that. That's weird, though. I felt like he said it. But anyway, but also we've got what's his face, Ernie Martin, saying that that LRH wanted him to start the free zone.
Yes, that he absolutely confirmed. I heard that with my own ears, and I have seen him physically, and I think we have somewhere the tapes where he talks about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, personally, I think that he was definitely still around until 82, and then after that, it's questionable. Personally, I think he died when they say he died. But it's just that he pretty much disconnected from the church because it had been taken over sometime in 82. And so those last few years, he really was retired besides writing Mission Earth. I think he was writing just a lot of Mission Earth and that was it.
I have no idea. I cannot confirm that data. I was for many years in a similar kind of attitude, or let me say, I thought similar way, but today I doubt that. I think there's too much rumors, too much contradictory data. I mean, what I also heard, he had a stroke, a brain stroke in 75 and in 78. And he was pretty much ill, you know. David Mayo said he was very much ill when he went to him in September 78. And he was almost, he hardly could move or something like this, you know. But on the other hand, L. Rage wrote New Aerodynamics just the very few months before, you know. So he must have been in a good condition. I mean, to study all those things and to evaluate all the sessions and reports and to rewrite the auditing series, I mean, New Aerodynamics, that needs someone who is awake and who is not ill. It doesn't make sense that someone who is really ill is writing that. And on the other hand, I also heard, you know, but that was then later in 79. I mean, it was just a lies all the time that L. Rage was around and he got all this letter to L. Ron Hubbard in around 70,000 in 9 months or something, or, you know, huge amounts. And he was all answering them personally and this kind of things. I mean, too many contradictory, too many.
Now, what about with the tech, though? I think I've spoken to 2 people now who have said that they noticed that the tech changes around 72, that it seems like that the PLs that are being put out are like just taken from other areas and are compiled together. Have you noticed something similar?
Absolutely. For example, there is how is it called? Ethics, Dynamics and Integrity or something. It is from 1980, this policy letter. And with today's technology where you can find copy-paste easily by computer programs, I can prove that this policy letter is just copy-paste from the Science of Survival, from self-analysis, from some professional auditor bulletins and responsibility or such kind of bulletins, you know, just copy-paste together. Of course, some part are written by someone else. I couldn't find anything. But this just cut together and made a policy letter. You know, it doesn't make sense. And it also doesn't make sense, for example, in 82, the bridge was changed that Dynetics was put after the grades. But when you listen to Ron, I mean, when you read the policy letter, the bulletins, he always says, give Dynetics first, especially when the person has somatics or is ill, give him Dynetics, you know, and then they changed it. Why? It doesn't make sense. And a big change is also the bulletin from 23 June 1980, checking question on grade processes, that when I did the academy, we never ever checked any process on the grades for read. Not a single auditor did so, not a single CS wanted that, and that changed then finally in 82. In 1980, this bulletin from 23 June was released with exactly saying you don't check it, you know? And then it got revised in, I think, 82, that you must check it. I mean, 180-degree opposite. And then I think in 83 it got revised again confirming that it must read. So, but here we have a huge change, you know. So you have, for example, on the grades, you have processes from the creation of human ability, for example, a book from 1954. And in this book, nothing is mentioned about a millimeter, much less that a process should read. And now suddenly all those processes should read. But when you audit that before, up to 1982, you never checked such a question for read. You audited them. That's it. And I have many proofs. Even so, Pat Krennic, who is absolutely against what I'm saying here, she proved to me that it was not checked for read before. So LRH was around and it was not checked for read, and suddenly in 82 it got changed. And now we can discuss, did he die now in 82 or did he die earlier or later? So what the hell happened, you know? It is contradictory like mad. And also, for example, Dynetics. I mean, before Dynetics, when you had a running item, you run the item on flow 1, 2, 3, and then later the flow 0 was added. But you never checked actually a flow for read. But in 78, that got changed. I mean, I got a strange situation as a CS once. An auditor called me, absolutely in despair, cannot handle the PC. PC is crying, and I asked what's going on. Well, I tried to run a secondary. Well, what PC is doing or having, you know, and then I found out it is flow 2. And then I asked the auditor, and what about flow 1? Was the flow 1, I mean, was the actual secondary, the person have had the secondary, was that run? And she said, no, it didn't read. And I said, hey, go back in session, audit that very secondary. And she was so very happy after that. It handled everything. PC VGI is erased. The secondary was erased, you know. But she was checking for read and didn't handle the case. And I have seen that many times with people who were checking for reads.
Interesting. Do you think that happens a lot with people doing their grades, that they're checking for reads, and so if it doesn't read, they get to skip all this stuff?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I see it even today. I mean, we are not out of that time, because somehow many auditors, they got that so easy, that it was so made so much sense for them that it must read. But it is not true. And still today I get people in with quickie grades because they checked everything. Well, I was not reading, PC was defending, and ha ha ha, and tra la la la. But after all, there was no auditing going on.
Yeah. So there's a change in 73, you notice. The actual policies seem different. The tech and the policies.
Yes, it started actually mainly in 78. 78. I mean, look, when you take a careful look at the New Era Dynetic series, and it started really there. When you take, for example, the postulate. First, and I'm not sure, I'm not absolutely mistaken, I think the first issue about the postulate came in March 78. But that was not L. Ron Hubbard, it was someone else. I think it was John Eastman, who wrote it, but I'm not so sure about that. And he said, well, it's a possibility. And suddenly L. Ron Hubbard later put that as a final round down on New Era Dynetics, you know. But when you take other round downs from New Era Dynetics, let me say the study remedy or so, that have been BTBs before, which were used by someone wrote that, and that became an HCOB, what was before a BTB. Many such things got just changed from a BTB to an HCOB. That was in 78.
Yep.
I mean, I can give you a lot of issues and show you the before and after.
Yep. You mentioned the Ernie Martin video before. I recently watched that actually, and he mentioned in it synthetic entities, and I thought, wow, that sounds really interesting. Synthetic entities. I thought, wow, I haven't heard that before. Is he correct?
I have the issues from Ernie Martin.
But it is something I do not like to discuss broadly, because we are going here really now in the upper level stuff. I mean, we can have a private talk, but I would not like to distribute that too broadly.
Well, but can you just say to me, yes, he's correct in saying that, or not?
I don't know how much correct it is, but I see quite some similarities between him and Captain Bill. They obviously discussed that then. And this is certainly, I don't know if the word synthetic is correct, I cannot tell that, but there is certainly something about.
Well, I mean, I've heard about UFOs or balls of light or something, and that when remote viewers looked into what these balls of light were, that they were like something you could call a synthetic entity. It was like some sort of advanced civilization's form of a drone, basically, if you know what I mean. It's just really advanced tech. And that they actually said that this synthetic entity could abduct a cow, get data about the cow's DNA, and then put the cow back. And so, I don't know, I can believe that there are synthetic entities because they're just like an advanced civilization's version of a drone collecting data.
Absolutely. I fully agree with you on that. I don't know what's going on with the aliens. I mean, for sure, there are aliens around us. This is beyond any questions. And I don't know how many of those are with good intention to our planet, because Ron says that on the briefing course in several places, or maybe even on other lectures, that we are a prison planet and they brought people to this planet which are criminals, persona non grata, or, you know, people they didn't want anymore. I mean, Satans, and put them or moved them to Earth. I mean, this is really non-confidential stuff you can read on the academy or on the briefing course.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much data on aliens that you can look into it, and some people have to investigate it for themselves. But in the 1800s or something, some guy was spotting the canals on Mars, and the canals, they really are they're like an advanced civilization subway, basically. So on Earth, he was spotting this subway in the late 1800s on Mars, but it's not active anymore. It's like a ruin from thousands of years ago. But he called it a canal. But I mean, this stuff, there's so much evidence for it. It's real. But
I'm pretty sure Mars was once populated. I mean, it had probably a fifth dynamic. You know, I'm pretty sure in that. But personally, this is now my perception of this planet and this sun, and so we are probably living in a rather old sun system, and compared to the amount of time this planet has done, we are rather on the end of that. I mean, we're not talking about that this planet is disappearing in the next 10,000 years, not these kind of things, but I would say probably 4/5 of the time of this planet has passed by, and we are in the last fifth of the planet life. Probably something like this, you know.
Do you know the guy Lafayette Hubbard?
Do we need to discuss that?
Because he's the last person I interviewed, so I'm wondering just what you think. Do you think he's the reincarnation of LIH?
Absolutely not. No. I really have a very, very high opinion of L. Ron Hubbard, and this is also why, you know, I think Ron left us in 1972 because there was really something he had to handle. And there was really something he was needed very much. And he just thought, well, now it's up to you guys here. Take responsibility, do it, and I go. And I think he really left, but he didn't go for something like a Lafayette Hubbard. Absolutely, this is just ridiculous. I have no words for that. I mean, look, in all those years, I heard so many people who said they have been L. Ron Hubbard, or they have been Quentin, or they have given the order to L. Ron Hubbard, or they have done this and that together with Hubbard and Hubbard. And oh, come on.
Do you believe that some people have been in with LRH though?
Absolutely. Look, I see people coming to us, and I'm absolutely positive they have done in their last lifetime Scientology.
No, but I'm talking about this. I'm talking about, like, since LRH has passed away, do you believe some people have actually been in with him?
With him as a spiritual being, I mean, on that level. I have no data about that. I can only guess, and I think no. But this is also not something I can say it is true or not true, but I don't think so.
Can I say something as well? With people who are experts at remote viewing, they can travel to any time, and they could get in with a person during that time. So if somebody is thinking that they're communicating with LRH, they might be remote viewing him today, or they might be remote viewing him when he was alive here on Earth and actually getting some sort of because some of these remote viewers do really cool stuff. Like, they can actually communicate with an alien, because it tends to be that whenever they're remote viewing a human, they don't tend to realize that they're being watched, but the aliens can pick up on it. And they can go, and they can communicate to them. And they can legitimately communicate to an alien that's like from 10,000 years ago. Like, a guy was remote viewing the pyramids, and he communicated with an alien from 10,000 years ago. I mean, this is how time is an illusion. But anyway, it's really interesting.
It is absolutely interesting. And I don't say this is not possible. I don't say that at all. But I'm absolutely dependent on that person who is saying that. And this makes it for me very difficult to deal with that. You know, it also, when we accept too much that data, that gives us actually a hidden data line, you know. Then someone comes and says, well, Ron told me we don't have to do that anymore, or we do it so and so now, and he found out much better ways, and blah, blah. You know, that opens actually really, or, you know, keeping Scientology working, you can just trash them. You know, because you have a hidden data line. You have always someone who knows better, you know. And when I come with a bulletin and say, look, Ron wrote here, but then he says, well, look, I have a direct com line to L. Ron Hubbard. What about that? I mean, this is more present time. This is newest research, etc., etc. And he says, the bulletin you are showing me is outdated. You know, I don't say it is not possible, but it contains a huge liability.
Lafayette Hubbard said to me that the church has released numerous versions of OT8, and in one of them it involves people having to run around naked. Have you heard this? Because when I heard that, I thought, wow, that's really out there. I thought I gotta fact check that. You know what I mean? Like.
No, I have no idea about that from both sides.
Yeah. Now, can I ask you, or I want to ask you something about OT8, but it's a bit confidential. Have you heard of the Fishman affidavit? Have you heard of the Fishman affidavit?
David,
it's like a legal document. Have you heard of the Fishman?
The Fishman, that was a court case kind of, but maybe 10 or 20 years ago.
Yeah, where he submitted a document from OT8 and said that it was a real document from OT8, and I think the church tried to deny that it was a document from OT8.
What issue was it?
OT8
has so many definitions that I don't know what you're talking about.
I think it was the briefing. I think it was called the Truth Revealed briefing.
Truth Revealed. I don't know. Probably I have read it, but honestly speaking, I got very skeptical with all those data because I couldn't pinpoint if it is source or not.
It's the one about Jesus.
Yeah, but there is an issue from 63, I think.
No. This is an issue from 1980, and it mentions Jesus and the Antichrist. That's the one I'm talking about.
I cannot tell you. I think I read it, but I cannot tell you if this is L. Ron Hubbard or not.
Okay, yeah, I thought you were going to say that when you couldn't fact check it. Yeah.
This for me very difficult because, this is not technology. I mean, if it would be technology, we would just apply it and see if it works. That would be one thing, But it is not something important for us.
Yeah, it's just an introduction before you actually do the level. But this is what I can ask you about. You have your version of OT8 in Ronsorg is called Excalibur, right?
Yes.
Is that the same tech as what is in the church, or is the church is supposed to be delivering? Because I heard the church broke up OT8 and split it in half. So do you in Excalibur have the full version of OT8?
Oh. As I said before, OT8 is a difficult definition. I mean, Captain Bill made Excalibur and named that OT8 to not confuse it with knots. But I was asking, I think it was in 86, it was in convention here in Switzerland, I asked David Mayo directly if he is in possession of the OT8 materials and if he has seen it. And he denied it. So I wonder what they have, because David Mayo would have seen it, and he was a brilliant mind. He was not stupid. And I think he would have read it, and he would have known exactly what's written in it. But he didn't know that. So that was not his knowledge. And so I wonder what the church really has. And I think there is no OT8 materials from L. Ron Hubbard around. It's just not there.
Now, have you read whatever the church is delivering on OT8?
Well, I got a version from someone who said he has some kind of a photographic mind and noted it all down. And I looked at it and I had to say, well, I don't know if this is really OT8, if this is necessary. I don't know.
Is it what, when you read it, did you go, oh yeah, we do this in Excalibur?
No, it's different. It's different.
Interesting, because just with my bridge or whatever, I want to do Excalibur, but I also want to do the proper version of OT8, and it seems like it seems like you can get it from Trey Lotz, I think, and Ray Robles. That they've got like a proper version of OT8.
Look, this is something I cannot deny, I cannot confirm. I really have too little knowledge about that. The only thing what I know, I really asked David Mayo then, and he said he hasn't, that it came later with those people. I don't know what it is, This is, I'm not competent on that part, honestly speaking.
So
we looked at it. I mean, we have seen people coming from the church attested to OT8, and they have been in bad case condition. We had to handle them then with Excalibur and really got them back to life. But we had such people, they had OT8 and they were so disappointed by OT8.
Yes. Now, but what about with CBR? Because he was still alive when the church released their version of OT8. Did CBR say anything about like, oh yeah, we've stolen the OT8 from the church, or yeah, we've got our hands on their OT8? Has he said anything about that?
Never. He was also never saying something, we need that, or this is OT8, or anything. I never heard anything in that direction.
Interesting, yeah. So he didn't say that. He didn't say, oh, we need to get from the church any. We need to get OT12 or anything from the church. He didn't say anything like that.
Nothing.
Interesting. All right, I've got here a video I want to play with Stephen Fishman because it's interesting to listen to. And what I want to do is I want to play it. It goes for like 5 minutes, and then I want it to ask you, is it true?
Okay, I hope I understand it.
Okay. Yeah, because I think someone like you could really help.
Tibetan Book of the Dead, for example, in the Between
Can you hear that?
Area. Yeah, it's because the Vedic hymns.
Can you hear that?
When the Vedic hymns were written by Ron in that lifetime.
All right, it's playing now. He's going to start talking about what I want.
Was written down, and of course, the Between Lives area is an offshoot of that. The Vedic hymns was written by Ron too. Can you explain the Between Lives area? Very, very well. Tell me about it.
He's talking about the Between Lives area.
Okay, this is a lot of fun. Okay, you ready for this? Okay, I love talking about the Between Lives area. It's one of my favorite subjects. When you die by dropping your body, whether it's voluntarily, like Ron did, or involuntarily, like most people die from dying, you do a shift in space, and you appear. You don't go cause distance effect, you go cause effect. You appear without distance at the Between Lives area station, which is a long gangplank, sort of thing, leading to the gates of Mars. Have you ever heard of that expression before, the gates of Mars? That's the entranceway to the Between Lives area. Where is it? Mars, the planet Mars. Why do you think visions of hell are red? Did you ever stop to think about that? No. Well, that's the reason. Okay. You learn that when you learn that actually in OT3, by the way. When you get to the Between Lives area, you see people, or specters actually, like ghost-like figures, walking, but they're totally out of ARC with everyone else because they've been. When you die, you go through this period of great non-confront, where you try to stay with the body until you really know it's dead, and then when you really confront that it's dead, the implant just has you report back. And reporting back is an actual command that you get before you pick up a new body, but I'll explain that later. You go on this line towards the gates of Mars, and you see the typical white light at the end of this tunnel, but there's no real tunnel. It's like a bridge. It's an actual bridge. And on the line, following other people, which you can't really communicate with because you're really everyone's in their own universe, and they really are in total out of ARC with everyone else. You can look over the sides of this bridge without the railing, and you see what looks to the average wog as hell. But that's the wall of fire. You see? Nobody jumps into the wall of fire. Let's take a break. Okay, so you were describing walking along the gangplank. Yes, right. And I love fire. I love my machine. Yes, you look down and you see the wall of fire. Of course, in my book, I call it the pit of fire. Just because I didn't want to infringe on any trademarks of theirs, but it's the same thing. It's just for your edification. Because the wall of fire is a patented trademark, I think, of Scientology. I didn't want to break the law. Anyway, so you see the wall of fire, and they are visions of hell and fire and brimstone and the devil and whatever this is. And nobody jumps off the bridge into the wall of fire, but in OT3, you have to. You have to confront the wall of fire that's the point. So you have to jump into the wall of fire. Now, what happens when you jump into the wall of fire? Because, of course, I was co-audited on this in Copenhagen. First thing you think, you're burning up, but as a spiritual being, as a Thetan, you can't feel pain. As soon as you can confront the visios, the pictures, it all as-is-is.
It what?
It as-is-is.
As-is-is?
As-is-is, which means you make a mental image picture vanish, because you create a perfect duplicate, and you make it vanish. You know what I'm talking about.
Certainly.
Okay. So then you go through another level of hell below that. It's the sea of souls, and you feel yourself choking, and you feel the mud going up your nostrils and in your throat, and all of these different things are happening to you, and you feel this weight of gravity like drowning you in mud and quicksand and everything else. And as soon as you confront that, it explodes away and vanishes, And then you have there are other levels below that. There's the ice cube, which is, they're all in the history of man, really. Anyone can really read them and not know what they really are. But in any case, you go through all of these levels, and at the bottom of this thing, you find out, hey, I'm okay. I can confront anything. Because all of these pictures are false pictures. But this is not what happens in the Between Lives area. Now, I digressed to tell you about how to confront OT3.
The Between Lives area.
Okay, let's do the Between Lives area first. Mm-hmm. So you finally get to the gates of Mars, and you're
on the gangplank.
You're on the gangplank, and it takes the whole process takes 69 days.
69 days?
Of Earth time. And it's the first day you spend on the gangplank, or the first 3 days, I forget exactly what it is. I have the data somewhere. But then you get into you go through the Between Lives area and pass through the gates of Mars. And the first thing that happens is that you get a compulsion or an implant or a hypnotic suggestion in WOG language to mock up how you died, or to recreate a picture of your death. But the problem with it is, it's not really how you died. You mock up a false death. In other words, if you died from a heart attack, you might get the compulsion to recreate a picture of you dressed something entirely different in a different time period, different space location, being hit by a truck. So automatically what's happening is that you're totally confused. The purpose of the Between Lives area, I should say, first of all, is to wipe out your memory, so that when you come back, you don't remember anything. After you go through this rigorous procedure of mocking up a false death, then you're given something called the year zero. The year zero, right away, if you ever see the year zero after you drop your body, you'll know it's a fake implant, because there is no year zero. But what occurs is that you have to recreate your entire time track from the beginning of time by creating pictures. The first phase, I should say, is when they give you pictures of your false death. They give the pictures to you.
Who's they?
The suppressives that run the Between Lives area on automatic. It actually runs on automatic.
Who does that, though?
Well, in the upper levels, you realize that it was set up by Christ in one of his first lifetimes. But you don't get this data, really. You're not supposed to get this data until OT5. I have an in, so I got the data.
What's the in?
Well, anyway, when I was in Denmark, I pulled a few strings and they thought I was at a higher level than I really was. So I got some confidential data, and I wrote that up later on, and I got into a lot of trouble for that too. But anyway, the point is, you learn in the second Wall of Fire that it was Jesus Christ who built the Between Lives area, and that was his overt. Did you know that? Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyway, what occurs is this. The first phase, you are given pictures of a false death. You don't mock them up yourself. I think I might have said that, but in retrospect, you are given the pictures. The second phase is the year zero, when you have to create pictures of your entire time track from, quote, the year zero. Except what you're doing is you're creating a lot of mock-ups and a lot of, very much like a dream. Like very much the way you dream. When you dream things, you create things out of sequence, and sometimes you wake up scared because you're the total effect of the dream, and he's falling asleep. That's too many NUs, you see? But doping off again. Anyway, during the second phase of the Between Lives area, when you recreate all of these moments of past track, they're not really right either, because interspersed with the creation of the past track are also other implants and suggestions which make the data false. Okay? Then the third phase of the Between Lives area is something called This Is Your Life.
Oh, with Ralph Edwards?
Wait. It's a story that they give you again of your next life on Earth. Except it's also a false story. And it's also with wrong pictures and wrong dates and wrong visios. And it's taken from the random aggregate of the total amount of time track available as mental image picture storage in the entire universe. And you're getting all kinds of random sequences of your next life, which have nothing whatsoever to do with your next life, because your next life is dependent upon your entry point or your anchor point into the physical universe by virtue of this very suppressive sequence, which is the fourth cycle, which is called the human race. And the human race is you as a Thetan vigorously pushing and shoving and fighting and clawing a bunch of other Thetans to pick up a zygote, which is a fertilized egg and a sperm at the moment of conception. Now, when you do this, you have already done a time shift and a space shift. So you're not necessarily back in 1989 or 88. You could be in the year 1200 or the year 3000. That's how I got into the year 22 BC in my last lifetime when I was Jesus' father. Because when I came back after the lifetime, after the previous lifetime, I came back not sequentially in time or chronologically in time, but I came back at the year 22 BC, and I was the son of Amiohai the Cantor in Nazareth, you know, and there I was.
All right, so that was Fishman. That was probably the most exciting part of a long interview with Fishman. And I think the thing I want to ask you is, I don't think he was the father of Jesus, because that's what he says in this thing. But when he talks about the Between Lives area and stuff, and I think he talks a bit about the Wall of Fire and OT3 and stuff, I mean, how much of this is correct? I mean, what do you make of that, of what you just heard?
Honestly speaking, this is very new, what I hear here. I don't know, you know, there were in 63, they made a lot of research on that, Ron, you know, with all these Platons and these GPMs they were working then. I know about Mars and I know about implants, and this is for sure. There are implants without any question, and there is a mechanism to keep those beings on planet Earth so that they cannot blow away. I mean, as I said, it's a prison planet, so there must be some electronical devices or means and methods to keep the beings down here. There is also a way to make them forget, but I don't know how much you make them forget, how much it is a device or some kind of, I don't know what, or if it is just from the degeneration of the spiritual being. What I heard and what I have observed is that children sometimes pretty clearly remember what was in their last lifetime, but around 4 to 6, in the year of 4 to 6 years old, they just forget about it and it just disappeared to nothing. They can't remember to that at all. So there is absolutely something truth in it, what we hear here, but if this is the truth, what I hear here, I'm absolutely not sure. And yes, time is a consideration, but I don't know if it would be possible for me just to take a body in the time of, I don't know, 12th century or something. This, I'm not so sure if this is possible. I consider the phrase that time is a consideration rather in that way that we don't have a future and we don't have a past. We have only a present time. You know, it is not, we mock it up that we have a present time, but actually we have the physical universe here, 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 here. It is always here in present time. And when we talk about the past, then is what I recorded and think it was. What is in your mind is already a huge difference to my mind, what has been in the past. In the future, the same. You know, we can postulate something and we can work in this direction, for sure. We are causative. But if I would have the possibility to go back to, I don't know, Jesus' time or even earlier or whatever, that means we would change the time track all the time. And I don't know if this is possible. I'm very critical on that, honestly speaking. For me, I have a present time here, and there is a lot in the mind and a lot of garbage there and such things. And yes, there are some electronical devices keeping people, or I mean the Thetans, here on Earth. That for sure. But I could not confirm that I heard what Fishman said here, nor that I audited it that way as it is given by him.
Have you have you run the Between Lives incident?
Not in that way. Not in that way.
Okay.
But I would put it in another way. I would put it that way. I have audited off quite a lot of cases, which I think so makes it possible to not get caught in the next cycle of in between life implants and so. Ron says that somewhere in a professional or auditor bulletin, he says that if this between, I have to get some battery for my phone, just a second.
All right, let's have a break then.
I'm just back in a few seconds.
I'm going to continue playing that Fishman thing for a little bit longer.
But this getting back to the Between Lives area again, here you are totally wiped out with your memory from the 3 sessions that you had in the Between Lives area on Mars, and you come back and you have to fight all these people. You get this beautiful sound of a baby crying. You get all of these suggestions. You also get a false, dear soul's picture of Jesus, which most people get. They see this picture of Jesus, and when they come back to life, they think he's a nice guy. He was really the biggest oppressive that ever lived. And the fact is that when you're fighting all these other Thetans to pick up the zygote, you have to be a real bastard, a real son of a bitch, because you have to literally knock them out of the way dead to get to that fertilized egg. And what could happen? You could go through 11 attempted abortions by the time...
I'm not sure if I got that completely right here, what he said, but yes, if I got it correctly, I say, yes, you have to fight for a body. This is not something you get presented like a Christmas present, you know. You have to fight for it, and this is, let me say, like a lion is fighting for his food, you know. This is rather something like this. It is not something soft.
So after a Satan's received this implanting, it's like they have an obsession to get a body, and they're just like, and they just like sort of fight for it, and they're obsessed with getting a body, and then they get one eventually.
No, I don't think so. I think the implants are much more in the direction of forgetting, so that you don't know what you knew, that you are stupid.
So why are people going around fighting for a body just because because you've forgotten everything, and you see people moving around and you just want to have a body as well or something?
That's a good question. I don't know. But after all, what else? I mean, you are on this planet and you are trapped here for I don't know how many million years. And any game is better than no game, and you take a body. I'm also absolutely sure that some Satans are taking animal bodies. I wouldn't say that an animal is a human being, but sometimes I think a human being can take an animal body. I don't know, for fun or I don't know what, because of operation. I think it is possible, but it doesn't mean that only by some engrams you become an animal or something like this. This is not what I say. So anyway, the most important thing is in this implant to forget that you don't know and to keep us stupid. Don't forget, we are a prison planet and they don't want us to be organized and find out that we can somehow escape from planet Earth. They are not interested in that at all. So they keep us really low as possible.
And when you say they, are you referring to the markups?
I wouldn't say markups. I mean, when I was listening to Captain Bill, he said there is about 40 to 50 different kind of races of aliens around the planet. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's this amount. And yes, look, this galaxy, this contains a lot of races. This is not just the markups, it's many other things. And so for some reason, but I don't have the data for that really, but a few of those or all of those races or the civilizations or scattered civilizations, I don't know so much about it, they have decided, okay, well, it is a trash planet anyway because it got this third dynamic or fourth dynamic engram 75 million years ago, and we can't do anything with this planet anyway because it's an ill planet, so let's use it as a prison planet. And this is what they probably do, and when they have some criminals or people they don't want, they just throw it down in ice cubes on planet Earth. Most probably it's the way it's done.
All right. And so that thing where Fishman was talking, it's like would you say some of it seems correct and some of it's probably not correct? Or because he's not that high on the bridge, and it's just interesting because it's like, where do you get this data from,
Look, people are audited and sometimes they get really very interesting things, what they audit and what they do. And I cannot tell you where he has it from. Maybe there are some issues, but honestly speaking, for me, it is new, especially in the form he said it. As I told you, forgetting implants, yes, L. Ron Hubbard talks about that many times. He also talks about implant station on Mars. He also talks about implant station on planet Earth. I don't know if they are still that active, if they have been millions of years ago and it is just memory of us, or if they are still active or so. This is all things I hardly can give you data about it because I don't know.
But what about how many days it takes to get the implant? Because he said 69 days, I think. And I've heard from someone else who I think is an OT and who's from Ronsorg. I heard him say the between lives implant was like 66 days or something.
I never hear that way.
Okay. Now, what about, does everyone have to run the between lives implant as a part of going up the bridge? Like, is it part of OT2 or something?
No, it's not part of OT 123, and it is not really part of Excalibur, but sometimes you are handling such things.
I just would have thought that's a big key thing, because people are concerned about what's going to happen to them when they drop the body.
Sorry, what did you say? BK thing?
No, a key point for people, because people are concerned about what happens to them when they drop their body, so they would have thought that one of the most important things to handle would be the between lives incident.
I don't know. Look, I think with OT3, what we have today, you handle a lot of that, but in a different way as we hear it now from Fishman.
Okay, all right. Well, what level of the bridge does someone have to get to till they're strong enough to be able to drop the body and be causative after dropping the body?
This is not so much connected with the OT levels. The bridge is very much depending on the lower part. When you take a careful look in the academy, you see 10 volumes, with I don't know how many thousand tapes, which are all not confidential, and they contain a lot of data, and they contain a lot of processes, and they should be done. And I really consider it very bad that people sometimes disregard the lower grades, including the objectives, including the hard TRs, which are an extremely important part for exactly being more causative in life and between lives and taking a new body. I mean, if you ask me what is best for someone to be really causative in the next lifetime, I would put him rather on a year hard TRs and objectives, and also admin TRs and this kind of things to make him more causative. Absolutely. And also the grades, including a lot of valence handling, all kind of this I consider extremely important. Of course, OT3 is important as well, but it is somehow like making a roof of a house without having the fundament.
Yeah. And so let's say somebody does everything thoroughly and properly. What level do you have to get up to till you know that you'll be okay when you pass away?
Excalibur.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense, yeah. All right.
Captain Bill says, up to Excalibur, you handle the other determined case. And from OT9 to OT16, you handle the self-determined case, and above, I don't remember exactly the level, but from OT16 to I think OT40, you handle the pan-determined case, and above we have games. So to handle the other determined case, this is the absolute mandatory step. And that is up to OT8 or Excalibur.
You've done the whole bridge, haven't you?
Yes.
Okay, so what will happen to you when you drop your body?
That's a good question. I'm looking forward to see that happen. I'm really curious to die, honestly speaking, to see that.
I heard of an OT who was getting surgery, and he was still kind of awake while he was getting the surgery. So because of the auditing he'd received and the case gain he got, instead of being knocked out by the drugs, he was still sort of awake and perceiving and stuff. So I imagine that the higher the bridge you go, the more you can handle, the more you can stay aware and not just go, and be in effect and just go on in effect.
I think this is an important part of the bridge, for sure. But as I told you before, I don't see the key only in OT levels. I see it in the full bridge.
Yeah.
Including training.
What do you want to do after you drop your body anyway?
Well, I think
I have no other chance than to come back and to continue this project here.
What about, are you aware of any other universes or anything with elves or something you might want to visit? Like, do you know anything about that?
No.
Okay.
No, I think this universe here and my own universe, but there is no parallel universe. I will go visit, and so maybe they exist, maybe not, but I'm really not in that.
In the upper level Ronzog tech, is there any talk about other universes?
I don't know, is there?
That's why I was just wondering from you, is there any talk? Because, I mean, scientists talk about how there can be other universes.
Yeah, look, this is all speculation, but I don't know what's there really. This is, yeah, look, many people saying this and that and so on, and after all, they leave you alone with this thought, and they don't have any proof for that. I mean, they have proofs for this wormhole or something, you can pass through the universe very quickly. Yes, there's probably technology how you can travel fast from one galaxy to another. I don't know if it's possible or not. I have no idea. And I don't know how you travel really from, let me say, this sun system to a neighbor sun system, which is still several light years, which would take by Earth technology, I don't know how many 100,000 years to travel. I don't know how this is done and what is possible, and if it has to do with other universes, you can make kind of a bypass. I don't know. This is above my level.
What about parallel universes or alternate realities? So is there anything in the tech about those things? Because I heard apparently in the PDCs that Hubbard mentioned something about alternate realities.
Alternative realities?
Yeah, like parallel universes or like a bizarro world, like alternate realities where things are slightly different.
Yeah, there's certainly such things going on or happened, but you learn also more about that on the OT levels. But this is, it's not so much I know about it and how it all fits together here. Certainly not enough that I can give any competent answer.
So you're telling me, are you talking about just Ronzorg's OT levels or just the OT levels in general?
This is rather from what Captain Bill gave us. I mean, this is the OT levels above Excalibur.
So not Excalibur, above Excalibur?
It starts with Excalibur.
So there actually is talk about parallel universes?
Not parallel universes, not directly in that form, no, not so.
But there is talk about alternate realities?
There is something about that, yes.
Is that meaning like this world but just copied and slightly different?
No, not that way.
So it's not parallel realities. It's not like parallel universes. It's
no. But it's not something like there is an other planet on 180 degrees on the other side of the sun or something like this, so we can't see it because it's on the other side.
No, I mean, I'm trying to say, like, do you know how you got parallel universes, like where you got the exact same world, but it's slightly different. Something's changed. It's alternate. Something slightly changed. And then another one that's exactly the same, something slightly changed. That idea, because there's a many worlds theory in quantum physics that every time someone makes a decision, the world branches off and both realities happen and they run simultaneously.
Maybe this is, you read a lot of such things, but it's difficult to give that in such kind of an answer. Well, there's certainly more.
Well, without talking about too much confidential stuff in Excalibur, what is this thing with, what do you mean? There is some sort of alternate world talk in Excalibur?
Look, take the factors. I mean, with when you look at the factors and you study those, then you can build up a universe of that. You can make your own universe. You can create a universe. You can do something. You can start doing anchor points, and you can put things there which are really things to look at, points to view, and you can mock them up. But when you do that just for you, then it's just in your universe, and it is nobody else's universe. And now you can work together with some other beings, and you can mock up a universe, and then you have a universe, And the point is, after all, this is what you have created then. You are also responsible to uncreate that, and this is quite often forgotten, And we have to take responsibility for all those creations we have done. And a small creation by itself can be an own universe, but you can have a huge universe and you can have very small universes. But you can mock it up. I mean, we have mocked up all the mess we have here, and this is also what is called then the self-determinate case, You're going to handle that. This is the key to that.
All right. So I want to ask you about evil and where it's really coming from. Like, do you have any idea of what actually evil is? Like, what is George Soros, and what is a lot of these left-wing and New World Order programs and stuff? Like, you trace things back and you get back to like saying it's evil, or it's from the dark side of the Force, or it's from the Markabs or something, or people say the reptilians. Like, what is it? Do you know what's really at the bottom of evil?
Yes, that's basically very, very simple. Ron says the reality is proportional to the charge, or the charge audited off. I mean, the more charge you have audited off, the higher is your reality. Or in other words, when you have a lot of engrams, when you have a lot of RC breaks, you are really drawn in that reactive mind. And the deeper you're down in there, the more weird your thoughts are. And especially when you have severe RC breaks, then you have evil intentions. And when they get fixed, then it is really bad. And this is actually mainly solved with Dynetics and with this kind of approach. I mean, it is not so much upper level stuff. It is really Dynetics and SPPTS technology and RC breaks, and it goes in listing and nulling.
Okay, now what about when it comes to the New World Order agenda and these evil things and this control system and stuff? Is it coming from an alien race?
I don't know. I think it's much more a common denominator of downtown people. This is people, they are in such a bad condition, they are so much in sympathy, and then they think they deserve sympathy, and this is all what socialism is, oh, you poor guy, we give you money, we know you cannot be causative, take some more money here, you don't have to work, we take care for you, you're not responsible, this kind of thinking, and this coming deeply from the mind.
So with George Soros, you're saying he's got evil purposes and he's just got lots of case problems?
Not only, he has also a hidden agenda we don't know, or we shouldn't know. There is a fight on planet Earth. They want to control us. There are people who consider us as cockroaches, or they consider us as resort.
Yeah, but who are they? Are they George Soros, or are they people that are controlling George Soros?
I think George Soros is one of those.
Okay, so he's just an SP.
Yes.
Okay, and he's not possibly a representative of the Markabs or something?
Maybe he is, but I don't think so. Or I don't know. This is really what I don't know. But I think he is one of those who probably also knows he is a spiritual being and he has quite a lot of power, but still he is stuck in a fixed idea, and especially in an idea of that people must be controlled, and especially there are too many peoples. I mean, that's an evil intention when you think there are too many people on planet Earth, you know. Who is too many? Is it you or is it me, you know?
So I heard Kissinger practices Satanism or something like that. Like, what do you think about that? Do you think that their Satanism tech is getting them in communication with some other dimension, and that's controlling them and making them act evil? Or do you think Satanism, whatever they're doing, is some way that keys them out, it makes them feel good or something and gives them energy, and then they can go and be evil, so that's why they do it, or something? Do you know?
Hardly can answer that. I really don't know. I never really went into Satanism and to know what it is really. I know it have to do with rituals and also with sexual and I don't know what kind of things, you know. And it has a lot to do, I think so, with dominating others. And this is probably something they like in that they learn methods or ways how they can dominate others, and they are happy to dominate others.
What about reptilians? Have you come across anything with auditing people or something about them? You know, the idea of that the reptilians are in control of the elite or something. Any data on that?
I heard it from a few people, PCs or OTs who spoke about that. But if you want to know more about that, I think it's better when you go to the internet and study about that.
So, but you're saying some sires have come across reptilians being involved with Earth?
Some what? Some sires?
Some Scientologists. You're telling me some Scientologists have noticed that reptilians are involved on Earth?
I've been talking about that, yes. Have been part in sessions, yes. But
do you mean they're talking about it like as in they just heard the conspiracy theory, or they actually have had these things come up in session?
Look, I don't know what is here first, the chicken or the egg. And I think they read it first somewhere on the internet, and then it became part of their case. Or they associated it with it. Look, this is what I don't know. And I'm not investigating that, and I make not evaluations on that, not at all. I mean, I don't even make statistics or so. I mean, I take this as a case data, and that's it. And this, by the way, has nothing to do with the OT levels. You can have that on Dynetics as well as later on the OT levels.
Okay. So with the Ronsorg OT levels, there's no data on reptilians?
No, absolutely not.
But there is on Markabs, isn't there?
Yes, markup that is. But this is already on the lower levels. You read about that already on the briefing course tapes.
Now, is there different types of Markabs? Like, could a grey alien and a reptile and a human, could they all just be Markabs?
No. You can, when you want to know more about that, then you can read or listen to the UFO seminar by Captain Bill. And as I said, he said there's about 40 to 50 kind of races around, and I think one of those are the reptilians, one are the aliens, this grays exactly, and the others are markups, but there are plenty others around here. And I don't know who of them are in contact, and I think some of them have good intentions, but I cannot tell you much about that because I just miss data.
But what the Markabs look like is what I'm trying to understand.
Well, Captain Bill says, I think this is in the Sector Operation Bulletin, he writes about that. He said they want that planet Earth become a part of their system. You know, they say the markup has now 7 planets or 7 something. I think it's planets. and planet Earth should become the number 8 planet. This is, I think, in the sector operation bulletin.
Yeah, but what type of alien are Markab? Are they human alien? Are they reptilian alien? Are they grey alien?
When I understood that correctly, they are just humankind of beings.
Okay. Yeah, they're just human aliens. Because didn't LRH say that the Markabs were walking around amongst us? So it means they must look like us.
No, that you cannot put one. You cannot put ones with the other together because, see, when you are here on planet Earth, you take just the human body. Doesn't matter from what race you are coming. And then you look human. That's it.
Yeah. By the way, have you heard anything about Bigfoot?
Bigfoot. Interesting stories, but I've never met him. I cannot tell you if it's true or not, but there's some interesting stories.
But none that involve Scientology or anything, or
not at all.
But you have heard, have you seen one, or you heard of someone who's seen one?
No. I just what I read in the news or in some kind of book.
Apparently Bigfoot's an alien.
Sorry.
Apparently Bigfoot is an alien.
Look, when we are a prison planet, we all are aliens.
When it comes to OSA using black knots or reverse Scientology, right? What do you have any good data on them doing that?
I have not much data about that, but I hear from people who left that they sometimes tried to do something. But I have hardly any data about that. So I cannot really confirm that, and I've never spoken with such a person.
What about other groups like the CIA doing basically psychic attacks, like black knots or whatever? The CIA doing that? You got any data on that?
I have no data on that, and I think they don't need that. They have pretty much other kind of methods to damage us or control us or get rid of our bodies, and so, I mean, they are pretty cruel in that.
What about chemtrails?
I don't think these are chemtrails. I think they are really Kondensstreifen, as we say in German, condensed water. I do not deny that certain parts sometimes put some kind of chemicals into the air to make effect. But when you see an airplane passing by and seeing all those things and always talking about chemtrails, it is just ridiculous. I deny that. But I know sometimes they take certain areas, I would say, I don't know how many dozens or hundreds of square kilometers, and then they do put some kind of chemicals there to make experiments. And so I have read about that, and that is logical to me. But not every stripe you see on the sky is a chemtrail, by far not. I think most of them are just water, and that's it.
All right, and what about abductees? Have you come across many alien abductees?
Sorry, what?
Alien abductees? People who have been abducted by aliens. Have you come across them?
Abducted or
abducted? People who have been abducted by aliens.
Do you have another word for this? Abducted? I'm not really.
Like people who have been taken up into a craft, to a UFO.
No,
taken.
I have not been in contact with any such person.
All right.
I have read books about that, but have nothing to do with Scientology.
All right. What about seeing an alien? Is anyone anything about that, or seeing a UFO? You heard any good stories about that?
No.
No.
I mean, I read a lot about it, and for me, it's absolutely real that there are aliens, but I have never seen a spaceship or something like this.
Yeah. Do you think CBR was assassinated?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I have been around when he passed away. I have given him in touch assist when he was ill.
Yeah, but you know how the CIA has technology that can make someone ill and then die.
Look, he had an an ulcer. You know, he had something. I think I don't remember on what side he was. It was here or here. I don't remember. Rather on the left side, when I look at him, he had a big ulcer here. You know, a big thing here, and he never went to the doctor. He never got medical treatment on that. He denied to get any medical treatment on that. And after all, that cancer just killed him.
How come he didn't get medical treatment?
I don't know.
Do you think it's because that they don't really have a cure for cancer or something? And
I have no idea. I mean, look, cancer, I think, but that's an absolutely different story. It has nothing to do with Scientology. I think they do not make really research in cancer to get the real answer to it, you know? And I read some interesting stories about that, and I think basically they know, a few know exactly what's all about, and if you would trace that, then you would also find medicine to handle that. And by the way, there are many kind of medicines which can treat cancer to quite some degree. I wouldn't say any cancer you can handle and you just need some auditing and that's it, you know. I don't think you can do that way. But there are treatments and auditing helps. It is sometimes just a summary of several things. But I have seen people dying, you know. We have to confront that this kind of body we have here, they live about 70, 100 years, and that's it. You cannot exceed the age of this body. And sometimes people come and say, oh, they want to audit and they become 120 or 150 or 200 years or even more, you know. Then I tell them, listen, when you are 120 aged, you know, when you have this old body, I will have a young, nice body again.
So what did CB actually pass away from? Cancer or a tumor, or are they the same thing?
I would say it is the same thing. I think it was a tumor, it was cancer.
Okay. All right. And why do you think cancer seems to be something that comes up amongst people on the OT levels in Scientology?
Well, speculations. I have only speculations about that. First of all, you need to understand, when I was staff, I have seen how staffs, especially staffs, were maltreating their bodies. I mean, they were drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes. That was the main part of their food. And then I don't expect anything else. You know, when you don't feed your body correctly and you don't make any sport at all, you know, you don't go outside, you only smoke, what else do you expect? And then we have the ship, you know, the free wings, where there's a lot of asbestos on it. It's also not really healthy for the body, especially when you talk about cancer and all these kind of things. But the worst thing is Scientologists, they have a kind, especially in those years, they're not today anymore, but in those years they have the attitude towards, oh, well, body is not important and we don't need a body, we are only a Satan and we are cause over mess and we are cause over the body and I don't care, you know.
All right. Yeah. Now, to finish off, I was just thinking if you could tell me maybe your most interesting past life incident. Maybe.
a nice question, but I would not like to talk about my past life. But I'm sure I have past life and certain knowledge I got from past life, and I'm absolutely sure that many things which were so easy in school for me, I have learned in past life, especially everything what had to do with math and geometry and this kind of things. It was so easy for me, the teacher gave me that once and I had it down, where I had to say German was not so much my favorite language. I really had a hard time to grasp that, to get it really down. So I really had to work on that. But mathematics, I hadn't to work. I mean, still today, even though I have no degree in mathematics, I just make the formulas and I get them, So somehow I got that on the track.
Yeah, you naturally have that skill.
Yeah, I would say, yes, it's a kind of a talent, you have. But I learned it somewhere,
Yeah.
And I know my track more or less. I know I have been in India, in China, and this kind of countries. I know I have been there, but I couldn't say now. Well, I was this king or I was that, and so on. Yes, there was. Maybe I was important. Maybe I was not important, but I've been there.
All right. Well, what about your best win? Do you have a really interesting win?
Win?
Yeah, from processing or something, like a really cool or interesting thing that you've had happen, like maybe something involving exteriorization or something?
Look, if my biggest win is actually that I really play the game I want to play, and that I'm in the position I am now. I mean, I never dreamed of this position, but I'm absolutely sure if I wouldn't have done the bridge, I wouldn't be here where I am. Absolutely. That helped me really to become an OT, to be cause, and to pursue a goal, a purpose, and go to it and have the energy to do that. I mean, this is maybe sounds not so extraordinary, but this is really what I gained, I mean, to put all those things together in Scientology that we can still have it. Sounds very silly, but on the other hand, when I look, actually, if Erika and I wouldn't have been, I don't know if there would be a free zone today as we have it. Sounds maybe arrogant, but honestly speaking, in the 90s, after Captain Bill has passed away, Scientology was no more liked, not even in the OTC when what we had then, they really said, you forget about it. We write the technically new, and no one was interested in Scientology anymore. And Erika and I, we have been called the backwoods and so, and there was actually only Erika and I, and all the others deviated from L. Ron Hubbard and these materials. They started to rewrite it or to cut it or throw it away. There are plenty of such things, and this is where we went, and I think this is what I got from the bridge, that I really got this ability and the strength to do that.
Well, were you responsible for getting Ronzorg into Russia?
Yes, Erika and I, we have been the main terminals to do that. And a person who helped us also a lot was Ottfried Krumpholz in those years, I mean, we are still friends, but he didn't go then so many times to Russia as we did. But Erika and I, we really put that there. And it was me who actually put all the materials together. It was me who made sure that we have all the briefing course tapes and other tapes. It was me who started huge amounts of scanning, that we have all the materials available in OCR form and in picture form and in audio and video and whatever, but especially audio, that we all have that. It was me.
Good.
I mean, I have people who helped me, but they came to me because I wanted that, and they did this job for me, basically.
Good. So, so if somebody was new to Scientology, what would you do if you were in their shoes right now?
Sorry, what was the beginning?
If there's somebody who's listening to this and they're new to Scientology, what would you do if you were them? What would you recommend them to do?
Read the books. Read the books and then just come into an org and do training. Get trained. And I think this is the most important thing, get trained. Today we have to focus very much on getting up to the OT levels, but I know from experience it is the study. The study is more important. Also, Ron says your case gain does not exceed your training level. So when you are a very good auditor, then you have much, much more case gain than someone who has not much training. It makes a huge difference. And I see that myself. And when you get a session and you understand it all, then you go much deeper into the case and you find what you need to find. It is so much easier.
And what org should someone go to then?
Options? What do you mean?
Which org should a person who's new to Scientology go to?
Yeah, look, if someone is in Australia, it doesn't make so much sense to come to Switzerland. But if you have the money, then of course I invite him to come here. But most of the time, you have to find the org which is close to you. And this is sometimes not the best org, but it's a place where you can get trained. And we are working on that we have orgs where you really can get trained. Sometimes it's really bad because you just get there and they just give you a course back into the hands and say, study that at home and come back when you have done so. But there is no course room. And from experience, I can tell you, without any course room, almost nobody makes it through a course. You need a course room. You need a supervisor. You need a case supervisor and other staff members who help you to get really an understanding of it and get trained.
All right. And does Ron's org offer online courses?
No. We want people to come into the org because it is much, much better for a person to be in the course room and to be face-to-face. And this is also one of the big successes we have when we have a training camp. You know, you have people together, and when you have 100 or 150 Scientologists together, everyone is a certain amount of theta, and Scientologists have sometimes quite a lot of theta, and when you put them all together, you really can feel the summary of all those theta and how it all interacts. And so, and people say that again and again, this is amazing. They have never experienced something like that before, and they have not been aware that this is possible. They are really, in a positive sense, overwhelmed by the theta from all the other Scientologists and clears and OTs when they are all together. And from experience, I know when you leave such a group, sometimes you really have kind of a loss. You know, it's like when you send your girlfriend away for I don't know how many 1,000 kilometers, you know, and you have to stay alone. It is really, you have this kind of loss. I have seen people crying when they left the camp.
I can understand that, because it's like when you get around OTs, it's really cool. And then you go back to not being around them and you're like, oh, this is shit.
Yes, you are alone.
Yeah.
You're alone. And Ron says in several parts, Scientology is a group activity. And this is what I felt so many times. You know, when you have an org, let me say, when we have been very small in the beginning, area count, me alone, it doesn't make so much fun like having an org like we have now, when you have something between 20 and 35 people in the house, you know. It is much more fun when you have a lot of people around. If you're alone, a Scientologist alone, this is Yeah, it's...
but it's also, if the Scientologists can be around other people, but they're not Scientologists, so they don't have the same reality factor, and you can't comm the same way that you can comm when you're around OTs and Scientologists.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's a different.
I reckon it's like there's a lot less withheld comm, because you can't go around talking to people about like certain things that they don't have any reality on, and you're just going to bore them to death, like around wogs. But you know, you can comm when you're around Scientologists. You can just open up and just blah blah blah. You know.
Exactly. And yeah, this is the reality we have amongst Scientologists. You know, we have a big reality. I mean, when you understood the factors, when you understood the basics of Scientology, the axioms and so on, that's a huge reality.
So what's your website?
ronzorg.ch.
ronzorg.ch. And does the Rons have an apostrophe in it? Like R-O-N...
No, it's just Ronzorg in one word.
RONSORG.CH.
Yes.
And if someone wants to sign up for this training camp in October, do they just go to your website?
No, it's not on the website yet, but I have to do that. You're correct.
Yeah, but
it's in an email.
End of October. Is it in Russia again?
No, it's in Turkey.
Oh yeah, Turkey, like you said. Yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah.
Is it actually?
Sorry. What? It's a beautiful place. It's warm there, a nice hotel. You know, it is really end of the season. This is why it's relatively cheap, and it is no more hot. And during midday, you can go to the beach and take a bath, you know, and in the morning and in the afternoon and in the night you study. So it's a fantastic atmosphere.
Yeah, LRH has some of the Mission Earth story based in Turkey.
Yeah, he wanted to have the advanced organization in Greece. You know that?
Yeah, I think he was trying to set it up, yeah.
Yeah, they throw him out there, and then he went to St. Hill.
Oh, is this before St. Hill?
Oh, yes. That must be, I don't know, have exact data, but the story is somehow that he had bought a house somewhere in Greece and prepared it, and he wanted to go there, and then he was not allowed to go into Greece, I think because they said he's American or I don't know what. And then he traced it back to where it was coming from, that he could not go there, and found out it is coming from London. And then he said he was putting in front of the cave of the lion.
Okay. So you're saying then he went to St. Hill and he set up the AO in St. Hill?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. I thought you meant that before he even went to St. Hill, he was trying to go into Greece. But anyway, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
With the PDCs, have you studied the PDCs?
Yes.
Do you remember if there's any talk about alternate realities in the PDCs?
I don't remember if studying it. Really, I don't know.
All right.
But he's talking about universes, I think, there, and he talks on other tapes about universes and so. I mean, his reality is quite high on that. I mean, I know he's talking on other places that you can control several bodies. I mean, 2 or 3 bodies or even more bodies at the same time, and I think that's also coming from the PDC, you know.
And does he explain how that's possible, by the way?
No, it's not explained there how it's possible, but it was absolutely his reality. And this is also why I saying he left in 72, because he had another mission. There was something going on. And I don't know what kind of body was afterward. I really have no idea. But this is, when you listen to what he's saying, especially in the 51, 52, 53, 4, etc., in those years, he is really talking about, yes, you can take two bodies, and so this is not unreal to him, and to take the knowledge from another thing. And so the reality he's talking about there is quite wide, quite above the minds of people today here. And this is why I think, people, when they talk about Ron, they think, saying, oh, well, then he had a stroke here, and he had a crash with the bicycle here, and then he had problems with the IRS, and he was PTS here and PTS there, and he was chased around, and, everything after 72 is kind of his PTS, Mm. And I don't think he was PTS. I think that was kind of a fading out of his life. But I don't think he as a being has been there, Listen to these tapes in the 52 or 51 Hubbard clinical lectures, I think it's called HCLs, He's talking about this kind of phenomena and how strong a being can be. And I think he was a very, very strong being. I mean, look what he did. He put into, let me say, in 22 years, he put an organization there, a new religion there, worldwide, huge, And he hadn't the money a CIA or such an organization would have had. He had to generate the money all by himself to put such an organization there. And then we talk all about the researches he did, and development of the technology. I mean, in these 22 years is a job beyond belief. This is... it's unbelievable. So this is a very, very strong being. And when he talks 1951, 52, 53, 4 about these phenomena, and I think we have to take that seriously, and we have to think that he had these abilities, otherwise he couldn't talk about them.
Mm. Well, I know that if time travel is a real thing and you travel into the past and you watch yourself, at that particular moment, there's two versions of you operating independently. So if somebody just keeps on time traveling into the past, they could have 5 versions of themselves operating.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about traveling to the past, having several me's, but parallel bodies, much more than living in the past, I mean, having a body right now here on planet Earth and having a planet maybe in a spaceship or on another planet, this is much more real to me than traveling to Jesus Christ and ask him for breakfast,
What about, do you have any data on time travel?
No, this is not, honestly speaking, I'm not so sure if this is real possible on time travel. Yes, you have your own track and you can go on your track, but I'm not sure if I can go now back 200 years and see what happened here and ask or speak with some people 200 years ago here. No, I don't think this is possible. And
okay.
I think it's a present time, and this is what we say with time is subjective, or how it's a consideration. We mock up there is a time, but there is only present time.
Okay, what about the future then? Is the future fixed in place? Like, is it already predetermined, or can you actually change the future?
Well, we are living now, and we are making our future every second. And of course, it has a tendency to go in a certain direction because people have a certain reality in their mind. But we can change it always. You are always living now, and with every action you do right now, you change the future. But there is not a fixed future or something which saying, well, that is going to happen anyway. Because if we would think that way, that would put us in an extreme effect position. That would say, well, astrology astrology is true. You can just look at the stars and then you have your future. No, you are causative and you do the future right now, every moment. And with clearing people, getting them more causative, with connecting them, yes, we are changing the future, but we are changing maybe the postulate of a Soros or this kind of people who have a clear setup. We are going so and so and so and so. And when you take a careful look, they thought they have this one world order around 1990. They were celebrating it, They know, Russia lost, Russia is conquered. Now we are just in the end part of it. We are collecting those things and so on. And then Putin came and changed it all.
Yeah.
It changed the future,
They're losing. The New World Order's losing.
Yes. So, but this is because someone made right now a postulate and did something. He was causative now and not in the future or in the past, It is something what was done right now.
Yeah.
And Ron was very, very much so, he was extremely causative. I mean, it's unbelievable how causative he was, This is, for me, an absolute example which has no comparison, Maybe
Right.
Putin is someone like this, because when you take a look, I have been in Russia before Putin was president. And I have seen in what horrible, what devastated condition this society has been. A lifetime or a life was worth $20. In Kiev, you could hire a killer for $20.
That's so cheap.
Yeah, it is cheap. And when we have been in Russia, especially in the beginning years, we came there in 97, and so the first 5, 6, 7 years, we heard so many times of this person got killed and that person is a murderer and wanted to become an auditor. And I had to say, no, I don't want you, because you have not been sentenced for that, No judge knows about that. You don't come here for an auditor, as a criminal, as a murderer, I had to really kick them out of the Ronsorg.
Well, what if, because I'm pretty sure that when you key out an OT, they can really change the environment. What if Scientology going into Russia has really made an impact?
It made a big impact. I cannot tell you after all what it did, but I'm absolutely sure we made a big, big impact there, because we went there and already in the year 2000, we started in 99 with OT2, and in March 2000 we delivered OT3 and we brought them straight away. We let them really audit many months on OT3, and then we put them on Excalibur, and they really audited thoroughly on that. And I'm absolutely positive that this made a big change.
Yeah, I think one person getting keyed out can key out a lot of other people.
Yes. You handle a lot of cases on OT3 beyond any question.
What about bodies in porn? That's the last thing I'll ask you. Is that real?
I don't know exactly. This is not so much I can talk about, but Ron talks about that in History of Man, and there is this kind of phenomena, and you are audited after all, And yes, this is what I said before. You have it's possible to have several bodies in the same time. I don't say I can do that right now. No, I cannot do that right now, but I'm sure it is possible. And I think Ron was one of those who could do that. I really think he has the possibility to do that. And sometimes when you look at his life, take that into account to understand for all what he did. Probably you will find some interesting connections when you when you think with that, because sometimes not everything is not so logical what he did. He had sometimes really abilities, or he made things which you had to think, how comes he knew or how he did that.
So it's like he could have come to Earth, picked up a body, and then gone back to the other body.
Probably.
Maybe, yeah. But would you say bodies in porn, we've all got a body in porn on Mars?
No. Maybe, but there is not so much data about that, and this is also not. No, I wouldn't say so.
All right, and I guess that's it. I was just wondering a little bit about implant stations or whatever. Is it mainly on Mars, the main one? Because that's what it said in that video I played earlier. It was talking about Mars a lot.
Yeah. I mean, Ron talks about that, but he talks also about implant station here on planet Earth. And I think this is not so uncommon. But as I said, it's a prison planet, and the persons or people or whatever we want to call them, they want to keep us here. And this is one of their methods to keep us here.
Yep.
But don't ask me about details how that works. This is above my mind.
All right. So is there anything you would like to say or ask before I end this interview?
Yeah, I would like...
Do you got a message for the CS? You want to say something to the CS?
Exactly, but I would really invite people to get trained, especially on admin. We really neglect the value of the green volumes. And this is fantastic technology which got invalidated so very much. Basically it got invalidated by, the church failed so very much, so the admin must be wrong. But that this admin got wrong in the 78 and 1980 and so on these years, and really got altered and with evil intentions from people like David Miscavige, or probably also other peoples. I don't know all the names now. That really got invalidated by that. But I really invite people to get trained on admin. We need those people. We need them dearly when we want to have a chance to keep Scientology alive on planet Earth. So this is my message.
All right, so if somebody is working at an org and they want to get had it on admin, they could go to your org, or they could go to this Turkey camp and they could get a crash course in Div 6 and promotion and stuff, and they could get trained up in that, and then they could go back to their org and boom it.
Exactly. This is what is possible. Exactly.
Awesome. All right, thanks for being on the show, Max.
Yeah, it was great to talk with you.
Yeah, it's good. All right, so that was the nice and long interview with Max Hauri from Ronzor Grenchen. If you want to get audited by him, I'll have all the details in the comments section. The video description section. If you like that interview, then maybe you should request a guest. Send me the contact details of a person you would like me to interview. Maybe you could even arrange the date. It's now time to end the podcast. Before I end off, I've got to end off with a quote, an LRH quote. This is a really short one. It's been a long episode. Keep this one short and simple. I'm not even going to crap on about anything after this. I'll just say the quote because it says it all. So I'll say this beforehand. I'll crap on beforehand. So you damn lefties and you pathetic weak people and you people who whinge, you go, the Church of Scientology broke up my family and they're disconnected from me and all this sort of stuff. You got to start taking responsibility, and you got to realize this. Never regret yesterday. Life is in you today, and you make your tomorrow. So shut up. You make your tomorrow. Never regret yesterday. Life is in you today, and you make your tomorrow. So you get in there and make your tomorrow. Stop complaining and stuff. Why aren't you making your tomorrow? Why are you being a pathetic victim? Stop being a victim. Never regret yesterday. Life is in you today, and you make your tomorrow. Do you want to know why you never regret yesterday? I will crap on, sorry. Do you want to know why? Because there's nothing to regret about it. Something bad might have happened, but that was supposed to happen. That was a good thing that happened. Don't you see? Do you know the generation that were born during World War I, during the Depression, and during World War II? Do you know how much amazing stuff they did? But then you look at the generation that were born in the nice 60s and the 70s where there was no starving and they were just spoiled, and they grow up to be these pathetic adults. Serious. I mean, you look at them. I mean, I look at my grandparents' generation and they could build like a bed piece. You know, they could actually put together a decent piece of woodwork. They could actually understand certain things. They knew what words meant. You know, and I know that the education system wasn't as dumbed down for them and stuff. But they could make their own life. They were at cause, and the women were like great cooks, and they were like looking pretty and stuff. They weren't looking all degraded and that, and you know, and like, you know, just struggling to survive. They knew how to look after children and this sort of stuff. Like these generations, these are the generations who started Scientology, really. They were around in the 50s and 60s, you know. They were the thing who got this church going at the start. I mean, they just did so much. You know? And why did they do so much? Well, maybe it was because they were born during a depression. Maybe because they were born during some wars. So they weren't these spoiled little shits that were just sitting there watching TV and eating Cheezos all the time. Oh, effect, I'm effect. Oh, just so spoiled. Oh, and they just grow up to be just such little mushy things. Oh, just these little balls of little weak mushiness. You know? There's nothing that they regret about yesterday. They had all niceness in their yesterdays. It's a person that has shit going on that makes them strong. You thrive in challenges. You thrive in tough environments and that sort of stuff. It's what makes greatness. There's nothing wrong with having a bad past. You need to have these, otherwise you grow up to be this little mushy ball of crap, and then you're an adult and you don't have rich daddy looking after you, and like suddenly you're struggling because you can't look after yourself because you had such a nice upbringing, you know? I'm not saying you should treat your kids like shit, but I am saying that like when kids are treated like shit, well, not really like shit, but when they're just not spoiled, when they've given a rough time, they thrive in it, you know? When you keep on punching someone, their skin gets tough. They improve, you know? And I think for the generation that were born during the wars and the Depression, they had just that right amount of toughness, you know? They weren't actually getting beaten up, but things weren't easy. Things were a challenge, and they learnt, and they were getting challenged and stuff. But for the generations, kids born during the 90s, it's just too mushy. They're just too spoiled. And they never get anywhere. So as much as you might be complaining about your past and regretting it and that sort of stuff, it's actually all a good thing. All that stuff you went through, you needed to go through it to be who you are today. And you needed it to evolve. You know, if I think about me, I just think that maybe I would never have gotten into Scientology if I hadn't had sort of some allergy problems and hadn't had like a sort of shitty upbringing and stuff. Maybe I would have just gotten into making funny videos and something. Maybe I would have been like a host of some show or something, some dumbass that you see on the TV. You know, like the leftist TV. I don't think I would have gone as far as it's actually been being a leftist, like a complete sellout or anything like that. But I do think it's possible that I could have been like some DJ that made some nice, cool, interesting music and just had the comfortable existence, but never found out about any of this. But it was because I was going through a tough time that I went into the need of change. So I don't regret my past. I don't regret any of it. I don't regret any decision I've made, anything I've done. It was all important. It was all educational. And it built me to be who I am today. And you should never regret your past. It's a disgrace if you regret your yesterday. And if you're whinging and you're being a victim. It's a joke. You can create your own reality. You make your tomorrow. So anyway, I mean, no offense, Chris Shelton, there's other people their families broken up from being connected with the church, but I mean, they have to accept the fact that they were a part of making that happen. I think a lot of people don't want to accept that they're God. They don't want to accept that they are causing everything in their existence. They don't like accepting that. They scream and they protest it. It's just like, sorry. It's nice to hear that there was a big monster and you can put all your blame on some big monster. It's not nice hearing that you're the one who fucked up. Do you know what I mean? But then you've got to take it first and you've got to realize you didn't actually fuck up. These were just lessons in the game of life. There is no fuck ups. Anyway, never regret yesterday. Life is new today and you make your tomorrow. Elder Hubbard. That's it for today's show. It's time for you to climb back out of this rabbit hole, out of this interesting Scientology world. I've been your host, Andy Nolch, the Space Cowboy. You have been listening to the Indie Scientology podcast. So remember, what you thought was impossible is possible.